Tahun 1969, Perbanas hadir untuk memenuhi kebutuhan pekerja di dunia perbankan Indonesia yang tinggi pada saat itu.
Menjadi perguruan tinggi yang terdepan dalam bidang ekonomi, keuangan, dan perbankan berbasis teknologi informasi adalah visi kami. Untuk mewujudkan visi tersebut, kami menyelenggarakan pendidikan berkualitas, melaksanakan kegiatan penelitian yang menghasilkan nilai tambah bagi industri dan keilmuan, serta melakukan pengabdian kepada masyarakat yang fokus pada bidang keuangan, perbankan, dan informatika.
Perbanas memiliki dua kampus dengan lokasi yang sangat strategis, yaitu di Kuningan, yang merupakan segitiga emas Jakarta, dan juga di Bekasi, yang aksesnya pun mudah dijangkau. Sebagai institusi perbankan pertama di Indonesia, Perbanas memiliki ragam jurusan yang lengkap. Di antaranya, Diploma 3 Akuntansi, Diploma 3 Keuangan dan Perbankan, Sarjana Akuntansi, Sarjana Manajemen, Sarjana Ekonomi Syariah, Sarjana Teknik Informatika, Sarjana Sistem Informasi, Sarjana Analitika Data Bisnis, Program Ekstensi, Pendidikan Profesi Akuntansi atau PPAK, Magister Akuntansi, Magister Manajemen, Doktor Manajemen. Proses belajar mengajar pun dilengkapi fasilitas-fasilitas pendukung yang lengkap dan nyaman, mulai dari fasilitas umum sampai fasilitas khusus.
Sebagai mahasiswa Perbanas, saya merasa sangat terbantu dengan banyaknya fasilitas di sini, terutama fasilitas khususnya. Karena saya jadi bisa mendalami ilmu yang sedang saya pelajari lebih detail, yaitu dengan praktek langsung. Karena menurut saya, itu yang sebenarnya paling kita butuhkan sekarang. Tidak hanya belajar teori, namun juga praktek. And I'm very happy with it.
Perbanas adalah pilihan saya sejak awal, karena program studi yang dimiliki Perbanas sesuai dengan minat saya di bidang perbankan. Dan menurut saya, Perbanas adalah tempat yang terbaik untuk mempelajari bidang ini. Lulusan-lulusannya mayoritas merupakan ahli di dunia perbankan. Inilah yang membuat saya semakin yakin memilih Perbanas.
Untuk menciptakan generasi lulusan terbaik, Perbanas pun membekali para pelajar dengan kualitas terbaik, yaitu lewat staf pengajar, tenaga ahli yang merupakan seorang profesional di setiap bidangnya.
Berbagai ilmu dan pengalaman yang sudah saya dapatkan selama saya menjadi akademisi maupun praktisi di Bank Victoria Internasional adalah salah satu cara saya dan mungkin juga teman-teman pengajar di sini untuk membantu memajukan kualitas para pemuda penerus bangsa Indonesia menjadi lebih baik lagi dari hari ke hari. Karena kesuksesan mereka adalah kesuksesan saya juga. Untuk itu, melalui Perbanas, saya harap semua mahasiswa agar memanfaatkan ilmu yang mereka dapat di sini dengan sebaik-baiknya sebagai bekal mereka di masa depan.
Dengan kurikulum dan metode pembelajaran yang up to date, menjadikan proses belajar mahasiswa sesuai dengan perkembangan zaman. Jadi, selagi masih bisa berkesempatan menimba ilmu di tempat yang tepat, gunakanlah kesempatan itu sebaik-baiknya.
Berkuliah di Perbanas merupakan salah satu keputusan yang paling tepat di hidup saya. Karena apa yang saya pelajari di sini sangat membantu dan sangat relevan dengan dunia kerja saya sekarang ini. Dengan dosen yang kompeten, serta fasilitas dan suasana yang mendukung, membuat belajar menjadi menyenangkan dan turut andil membentuk apa yang sudah saya raih sekarang ini.
Saya seorang manajer retail digital channel di BNI. Studi di Magister Manajemen Perbanas telah menjadi langkah yang luar biasa dalam perkembangan karir saya. Program ini memberikan pengetahuan mendalam tentang manajemen bisnis, strategi, dan kepemimpinan yang sangat relevan dalam dunia kerja.
Saya seorang pengawas pada Direktorat Pengawasan Keuangan Derivatif dan Bursa Karbon di Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. Studi di Magister Akuntansi Perbanas telah memberikan saya pengalaman pendidikan yang luar biasa. Program ini tidak hanya mendalami aspek-aspek akuntansi yang penting, tetapi juga mengembangkan keterampilan analisis, kepemimpinan, dan pemecahan masalah yang sangat diperlukan dalam dunia akuntansi.
Jadi, tunggu apa lagi?
Mari membangun kompetensi di Perbanas Institute untuk mencapai masa depan yang gemilang.
Envision your future today.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and attendees, the opening ceremony will begin in a few minutes. Therefore, we kindly request for the audience to please take your seats. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of Indonesia, followed by the national anthem of Malaysia. Visited.
Assalamualaikum and happy greetings to all. I'm Sauna Zainun, Rector of University Teknologi Mara, Chuangan, Johor, Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, the 8th International Accounting and Business Conference 2024 will be held again. It is a biannually organized conference that was established back in 2009 by University Teknologi Mara, Chuangan, Johor, Malaysia. This time, we bring International Accounting and Business Conference or IABC to Jakarta, Indonesia. University Teknologi Mara Changan Johor, in collaboration with our strategic partners, Perbanas Institute of Indonesia, organized this 8th IABC. This time, the conference theme is Sustainability and Corporate Social Responsibility in the Carbon Footprint. The theme was chosen to invite international experts, researchers, to share their studies and practices in a field of accounting and also businesses in connection to the concept of carbon footprint. I hope you will have a great time here in Jakarta, and I wish you a profound and pleasant conference ahead. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum, greetings to all of you. I am Hermanto Siregar, Director of Perbanas Institute. Very proud to welcome you all to our campus for the 8th International Accounting and Business Conference. We thank UITM Johor for the strong collaboration with Perbanas Institute, particularly in organizing this event. We hope that through this conference, all will gain new insights into how the application of sustainability and CSR can reduce our carbon footprint. We also hope that discussions and presentations will inspire all to continue innovating and making positive contributions to the environmental and society. We hope you enjoy the event and gain valuable benefits for the development of our knowledge and professional practices. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy the conference as well as Jakarta.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to extend you a warm welcome to all of you at Perbanas Institute Jakarta, Indonesia, the opening ceremony of the 8th International Accounting and Business Conference 2024, today, Monday, August 19, 2024.
The 8th International Accounting and Business Conference 2024 will be focusing on the theme of sustainability and corporate social responsibility in carbon footprint.
Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Adi Darmawan.
And I am Mas Ervina from UITM Cawangan, Johor, Malaysia. It is our great honor to welcome you to this special occasion as we host the opening ceremony. First and foremost, I would like to extend my greetings to all distinguished guests who are here with us today. Associate Professor Dr. Saunah Zainon, Director of UITM Cawangan, Johor, Malaysia. Professor Dr. Hermanto Siregar, Rector of Perbanas Institute, Indonesia, and Dr. Faridah Najuna Misman, Deputy Rector of Research and Industrial Linkages, UITM Cawangan, Johor, Malaysia.
And we are also privileged to have us today Professor Haryada Marawidi Putra, the Vice Rector for Academics Affairs and Planning, and also Professor Riono Umar, the Vice Rector for Resources and Research Development, and also to our panelists, both from the country and abroad, Ibu Eka Fitria MBA, Director of Treasury and International Banking, PT Bank Mandiri Persero Tbk, welcome Ibu. And then Ibu Dr. Sahara from IPB University. And join us online, Professor G. Van, PhD from California State University, USA, and Professor Bimara Metri from Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, India.
And to all the deans, invited guests, presenters, and participants of this prestigious international conference who are present today. This event represents a continual collaboration between Perbanas Institute Indonesia and UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia, alongside with other collaborative accomplishments in both academic and non-academic fields.
This international event has been made possible with the support of Bank of Indonesia and PT Bank Mandiri Persero Tbk. We would like to express a profound and deep appreciation for both institutions who have contributed to the success of this event. Indonesia and Malaysia are two closely nations with strong cultural tradition, and one of the notable cultural heritage is a tradition of pantun. Allow us to commence with two beautiful pantun for this opening ceremony. Bunga mekar di waktu pagi, wangi harum menyentuh sukma. Dua kampus bersahabat dan bersinergi, berkolaborasi mengukir sukses bersama.
Burung merpati terbang tinggi karena hangatnya sinar mentari. Kampus bersatu penuh energi demi membangun dan memajukan negeri.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our event today, let us come together in a prayer recitation. May this event be blessed with inspiring result to all of us. The prayer will be led by Mr. Saripudin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start this event, it would be good for us to pray that this event will be blessed, easy and smooth. Prayers are led in Islamic way. For other religions, it can be adjusted. Astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim, astaghfirullahaladzim. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan na'imin, hamdan yukafiru majidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wa ajimi sultanik. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Allahumma aftah lana afwabal khair wa abwabal barakah wa babal rizki wa babal ni'mah وباب الصحة وباب السلامة وباب العافية وباب الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وأملا متقبلا. رب زدني علما وارزقني فهما. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث أصلح لساني كله ولا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عيني وأصلح لساني كله. لا إله إلا أنت لا إله أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you to Mr. Saripudin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is this international conference is opening remarks by Director of Perbanas Institute. May I now invite Professor Dr. Hermanto Siregar onto the stage.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to you all. With us here, Ibu Profesor Madya Dr. Saunah Zainun, Rektor UITM Johor, Malaysia. Also Dr. Farida Najuna Misman, Deputy Rector. And from us, Perbanas, there is Vice Rector, Professor Haryadar Damar and Professor Haryono Umar. And also we have deans, professors and lecturers. There are also a number of guests from UITM, ya, Ibu Sauna, ya. So we are very glad to have you all fly from Malaysia here. Some came here on Saturday, and some from Sunday they are here. And also we have Ibu Eka Fitria. She is a director of Bank Mandiri, who will be speaking as one of the speakers with Dr. Sahara from IPB and Professor Fan from California University, Professor Metri from IIM Nagpur, India. We are very thankful to UITM Malaysia because we can conduct this 8th International Accounting and Business Conference collaboratively, and thanks also to sponsors. Yeah, of course we have Bank Mandiri and Bank Indonesia as sponsors. The theme of this International Accounting Business Conference is very timely: sustainability and CSR in carbon footprint. This is a game changer for a country like Indonesia and also for Malaysia, because both countries rely upon so many industries that currently maybe have a risk, yeah, of sustainability. So, but on the other hand, we also have very good human resources. Not of them have enough capacity to do so. So the universities play very important role to build the capacity of these human resources, and also through the research, like what we have in Indonesia and also in Malaysia, developing the oil palm, rubber, and so on, some of which already implement EUEDR. This is to make sure that every produced commodities from Indonesia have to be traceable, have to be inclusive in the implementation in the farms in Indonesia, and in also I believe in Malaysia. So let's have a very, very good thing to this conference, and we hope that the result of the conference not only able for publication, but also become a recommendation also to the governments both in Indonesia and in Malaysia. Especially in Indonesia, it is a transition from the Jokowi government into the new one, Prabowo presidency. So we hope that some of the the result of the conference could be shared to the coming government. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hermanto Siregar.
Ladies and gentlemen, proceeding to the next agenda, we have the keynote speech will be delivered by Director of UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia. Please allow me to read a brief CV of Associate Professor Dr. Sauna Zainun. Associate Professor Dr. Sauna Zainun, she earned the education Doctor of Philosophy from University of Teknologi Mara, Malaysia, and work experience for the Deputy of Rector of Research and Industrial Linkages, and also currently he is now the Rector of UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Dr. Sauna Zainun.
Wasirli amri wahlul udatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Selamat pagi and a very good morning to all. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Hermanto Siregar, Rektor Perbanas Institut Jakarta, Indonesia. Yang berusaha Dr. Faridah Najuna Misman, Deputy Rector of Research, Industrial Linkages and Community UITM Cawangan Johor. Dr. Rosmawati Harun, the Chairperson of the 8th International Accounting and Business Conference Iabc 2024. Yang dihormati Ibu Dr. Sahara, Lecturer of IPB University, nice meeting you. Yang dihormati Ibu Eka Fitria, Director of Treasury and International Banking of Bank Mandiri. Yang berusaha Profesor Dr. Haria Damar Widiputra, Wakil Rektor Bidang Akademik dan Perencanaan. Yang berusaha Profesor Dr. Haryono Umar, Wakil Rektor Bidang Sumber Daya dan Riset. Yang dihormati Dr. Niko Silitonga, Wakil Rektor Bidang Keusahawanan dan Fasilitas. Yang saya kasihi Dr. Hedwigis Esti Riwayati, Dean Faculty of Economics and Business Perbanas Institute. Dr. Lucia Sri Istiyawati, Dean Faculty of Technology and Information Perbanas Institute. Professor Dr. Steph Subanija, Dean of School of postgraduates of Perbanas Institute, pimpinan cabang Jakarta Kuningan, PT Bank Mandiri, the organizing committee from Perbanas Institute and also UiTM Johor, lecturers, docents, senior officers, distinguished guests, presenters, welcome to the 8th of International Accounting and Business Conference, Iabc. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me such a great pleasure over here to standing over you today this morning and participants in front of the 8th of International Accounting and Business Conference to this conference held at Jakarta, Indonesia. This is my second time visit specifically to Perbanas Institute because this is a biannual conference. Last time it was held in 2022 and another 2 years now is 2024. So it's such a great pleasure while I'm standing over here. It's more on knowledge sharing, more on knowledge sharing what the theme of the conference is today. My heartiest congratulations especially to the committee members who have gave extra efforts along the way to make this conference a reality today. The organizing committee from University Technology Mara Johor and also from Perbanas Institute. And we know that the aim of this conference is to actually create a platform for researchers and scholars to share their findings, fostering research collaboration, and of course, to establish networking and collaborations among others, agencies, communities, including banks, Mandiri, and etc. I must congratulate the organizer for these significant contributions, not only in this prestigious conference, which is Index Conference, but also upcoming publications from this conference. First of all, I would like to introduce the states of Johor, Malaysia, that consists of 10 districts, and UiTM Chuangan Johor per se is located in two main areas. One is at the north, which is Segamat, and another one is at the south at the Johor Bahru, and the two campuses, Segamat campus and also Pasir Gudang campus at the north of Johor. So an overview of this campus, Segamat campus more on social sciences, where we have accounting, business, economics, marketing, and etc. And Pasir Gudang at Bandar Sri Alam towards south of Johor, where we have a niche of science and technology, all the engineering students. Okay, with regards to the themes of the conference of sustainability and corporate social responsibility in carbon footprint, let's look at, we start with showing the planet. Now everybody can see that this is our planet, the planet that we stay, the planet that we have breathed, and what is the current state of our planet now. And we talk about money as well. We talk about profits. We concern about money matters. We concern about cost savings. And let's look how this planet is abundant, the planet that gives us fresh air to breathe and wealth. And of course, we have to thank you to the planet, the Earth. And the theme of this conference of sustainability, which is beyond corporate social responsibility, and corporate social responsibility in carbon footprint, is an excellent choice of topic that we could gather some current era of globalization and digitalization. Let us start with one video that I want to share first. Let us watching this video on climate change. Let's watch the video first before I continue with the presentation.
Climate change due to human activity. Deforestation or intensive farming are the main causes. In less than a century, we've reached an alarming level of greenhouse gas concentrations. If no measures are put in place by the end of the century, the temperature increase could reach 4.5 degrees. That's why countries have committed to limiting this rise to 1.5 degrees by reducing CO2 emissions in the atmosphere.
To meet these challenges, one of Legrand's priorities is to contribute to a transition to a low-carbon society. We set ourselves the goal of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050 and intermediate CO2 emission reduction targets by 2030. These are in line with keeping global warming to 1.5 degrees and validated by the Science Based Targets initiative. With our new 2022-2024 CSR roadmap, we are committed to concrete actions to continue to reduce CO2 emissions coming from our factories and from our vehicles, to involve our value chain in this reduction pathway, especially our suppliers and subcontractors, and to provide our clients with products and solutions that improve the efficiency of buildings. To illustrate these commitments, here are some concrete examples of what we're doing in the group today.
To reduce the impact of its activities on the environment, Legrand has already installed photovoltaic panels at 9 of its sites, generating more than 5 gigawatt-hours of energy for its own consumption. These installations will be extended to 1/4 of its sites by 2024. Legrand also equips its sites with solutions developed and marketed by the group that improve the energy efficiency of buildings and limit CO2 emissions.
In France, we have set up a multi-site energy management system. We collect consumption data locally with, for instance, our EMDX cube measuring units. These data are then transmitted in real time to a Legrand energy management platform where they are consolidated and analyzed. Alerts can be sent in case of non-optimized energy consumption, and we can also measure the result of the daily action we put in place to reduce our CO2 emissions. These solutions are standard and they are part of our energy efficiency offers that we provide to our customers.
Okay. In a carbon free of a carbon society, as we all know that there are 3 main areas of a triple bottom line, or TBL, which is introduced by Elkington 1994. As the triple bottom line says that the 3P is people, the planet, and also the profit. The intersection of the 3 is the sustainability, where it is most important. So in TBL, or triple bottom line, it is important that one should commit not only to measure the profits as the triple bottom line, but also the social and environmental impact. In addition to the financial and also monies, performance rather than solely focus on the money or profit or the standard that is so-called the bottom line. Means we have to look into beyond numbers, we have to look into beyond profit, where the environmental and social should take part in a triple bottom line as suggested by Elkington 1994. And Elkington also suggests that the net income continues to remain as important factor in determining business operations or performance. However, one cannot be split to another, where environmental and social also has to take part, is like 2 or more significantly. The quality of performance of company depends on the social and also the environmental factors. Business should report on their contributions towards creating social activities social equity, and social welfare. And business also should report on their contributions towards building a more sustainable for a future. To accelerate the process of companies moving towards a more sustainable business model, the United Nations adopted 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which recognizes that ending the poverty and other duplications should go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reducing inequality, and spur economic growth. This is what, while tackling climate change and working together to work through oceans and forests, and the United Nations or UN Sustainability Development Goal fit into this end. The Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs provide new opportunities for businesses which are trying to push a more circular economy. And based on the triple bottom line framework, the TBL, the 17 SDGs pillars restructured into P the profit, P the people, and also P for the planet. It is a kind of innovation where the SDG bridges the gap between capitalism and socialism in reinvesting, to rethinking, to rebuilding, and reinvesting in a company's business goal to achieve sustainability. Let us again recap what is a profit. Profit, where a business runs to make profit, and then has always been ultimate goal for any companies or businesses. The profit is actually the revenues minus all the expenditures. So that will give rise to either gross profit or net profit. Through profits, companies can keep money flowing, in which helps run the business. It also contributes to various economic factors within the country, such as income, expenditures, taxes, corporate expenses, rents, and others. It also helps measure how the company contributes to the gross state product and how establishment of these companies can grow. The second P is the people. The people refers to the triple bottom line include consumer opinions and also social media that have contributed largely in driving companies towards their better performance, and also responsible in playing their roles towards the planet. This has led companies to not only simply consider the profit, but the CSR that should play an important role, but also rethink that the business needs model to put forward or pressure that reduce waste, reuse their raw materials, and create products that have longer shelf in life. But let's look at the intersection between the three, like we have the 3P, and we have the environment, economy, and social. That is the sustainability, or the key word in this conference theme. What is sustainability? In a short definition, sustainability defined by United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development translate it into meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. So that is the definition of sustainability by United Nations. And in the era or challenges of climate change knocking on our door, sustainability has grown in importance, striving for sustainable development, and also businesses to ensure that the way that they are in operation. This includes the implementation of circular value chain and also reduction of their carbon footprint as part of a holistic sustainability and strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, another extension of sustainability is sustainability value change. It has become increasingly clear that modern businesses need to transform into how they operate in value chain. Two factors that particularly important. First is to reuse and recycling the materials. Second is the energy moving towards renewable energy sources and conscious energy usage. Now we can look at the cars, vehicles. They are more on use of electricity or EV rather than petrol or diesel. Such ideas will have lasting impacts on supply chain, and from alternative from one to another, the materials down to return flows and change activities in manufacturing. This value chain that actually will circulate the economy and the related form credible to credit is all gaining a lot of attention in a wider supply chain community. That is an extension to sustainability. In the next slide, we can have a look at the footprint from water, emission, personnel, electricity, gas, transport, offset, recycling, and waste. The term carbon footprint is used to describe the full extent of direct or indirect carbon emissions released into the environment. So make sure that the society it is a low carbon, and this is important that emission play a huge factor in a climate change. Often there is a consequences of human activities, and carbon footprints can be calculated for individual, businesses, and even more larger societies or countries. How are we going to calculate carbon footprint? Calculating the carbon footprint is generally by considering the total sum of carbon dioxide emission and induced by certain activities of a given time period in order to calculate the carbon footprint. Means the numerator and denominator must be really accurate for a given time frame to calculate the sum of carbon dioxide. There are various charts, resources, graphs, or online calculators that can assist in calculating the carbon footprint. A lot of factories, among others, plays an important role into calculation. We as individuals also need to must have divide this to make sure that for businesses, calculating the carbon footprint is very important to ensure that how much electricity is consumed and what equipment is used and how items are manufactured, shipped, and sold. If you have these facts or data, then it was easier for us to reach at the low carbon society. The top three highest emitters of greenhouse emissions are coal, oil, and also gas. Reducing our consumption on that will actually reduce on individuals' roles or collective roles on carbon footprint, which will impact our environment greatly. As well as economy and public health, let us take a look at a few reasons why our carbon footprint is important and why the reduction is needed in particular. It is a well-known factor that carbon emissions have a devastating effect, not only on environment, but reducing the carbon greenhouse emission can effectively slow down the rates of rising global temperatures. Of global temperatures, 1% increase, for example, it will actually disaster or damage the whole population of snow crab. You just imagine 1% increase in temperature, the whole population of snow crab will be abandoned. So that's the scenario. And a prime example of this is what we refer to coral bleaching, where corals expels the importance and estimated that the ocean, especially about 30% of the carbon dioxide, CO2, is released into atmosphere, and which decreases the pH of the ocean and in turn increase the acidity. So the scenario now is a very challenges to us to look at into this emission. Reducing carbon gas emission, giving the impact of climate change on human health, is very fundamental to lessening the severity of weather. We know that the climate change and improving the quality of air and water needed for sustaining our life, maintaining biodiversity, and also a healthy food supply. The degradation of air quality as a result of carbon dioxide and carbon gas emission poses a serious issue nowadays, not only towards other society, but especially to human health. And we are the human, we must consider this is very important. An increased concentration, for example, in mold spores, dust, particularly matter, contribute to asthmatic and other respiratory disease, while depletion of stratospheric ozone of chemical dispersed into the air also affect the results of extreme weather abnormalities. The abnormalities in a current ozone, for example, such as of disease, cancer, stroke keep on increasing, or maybe cardiovascular disease also increase. This is due to depletion of food resources, additionally leads to misnutrition and also impacting human, especially not only human development, but also human health. Ladies and gentlemen, for us to look at the calculation into carbon footprint, first we need to know what are the types of carbon footprint. There are three types of carbon footprint, from individual, product, and also corporate. And if we identify the activity we are looking at, we know that which types of carbon footprint they are into it. For individual carbon footprint, look at the first one. It is based on individual use to take into consideration the carbon gas emissions associated with a person's chosen, whether they use the electricity at home. For example, we are using our electricity at home, consumption of goods, eating habits, and also recycling methods that we implement or execute at our home. That is the first part of a carbon footprint on individual carbon footprint. For the product footprint, on the other hand, it takes into consideration the use of energy. When the use of energy, it will actually relate to product footprint, and when it comes to for creating a product, or we want to produce the product, this include carbon gas emission from raw material extractions, various production processes such as generation of energy required, and product alteration for companies produced by customers, transportation that we use between one place to another at different stages, and all ways associated that also affect the product footprint. And the last one, the corporate footprint, includes the inventory of carbon gas emission, translating into operation within an organization in which the company turn into one way to another to identify energy efficiency within the organization as well, and also as a result from joint efforts and collaboration with one corporations to another. Let's look at the calculation of carbon footprint after we look into the types of carbon footprint. The calculation by ISO 14064 standard and the guidelines established by the greenhouse gas protocols, emissions from 3 different categories are taken into consideration or taken into account to calculate the emission generated from the operations. A company's vehicle fleet, overall energy usage, and also the scope centers around the carbon emission, and also business travel and other obtained products or services must be taken into account in considering the consumption or usage of this carbon. Calculating carbon footprints can be quite difficult, however, and achieving precise and accurate numbers can be tricky due to many complexities and processes involved, but still it can be done. Next, we should consider how are we going to reduce our carbon footprint. There are few options. Among the options, there are top options. One of the best ways for us to collectively reduce our carbon footprint is through responsible consumption in our day-to-day life or our day-to-day operation. This would mean consuming local seasonal products which cut down the CO2 emission derived from transporting goods from one place to another, and refrigerating generation of home appliances that energy efficient, and also to get familiar with the sustainability standards, also that is estimated by replacing the tube lights and bulbs in our households and switching them from fluorescent lamps to CFL bulbs. A household can reduce 75% of its monthly electricity consumption. As we can reduce the waste, recycling whenever possible will always be the first choice, as well as to reuse packaging an option that refurbish the goods. Another top option is furthermore using more sustainable methods of transporting whenever possible also make a huge difference. According to a report by one single report by APTA, switching into a public transportation instead of driving on your own can give a reduction of over 30% of total carbon emission, and this can be achieved. Public transport, on the other hand, is more eco-friendly, more time-saving, and the modes of transport such as bicycles, electric scooters, and walking will also benefit in the top options of reducing this carbon footprint. To summarize what that I have explained earlier regarding carbon footprint and etc., let us watch another video on carbon footprint. Okay, let's enjoy.
In a previous video, I explained what is our ecological footprint. In a nutshell, it is how much land and water area we need to produce the resources we use and to absorb our waste. Here is a link to that video if you haven't seen it. One resource that we use a lot of is carbon, mostly from the burning of fossil fuels. Now, this is a cute drawing, but truly, this is what fossil fuels extraction looks like nowadays. When we do that, it produces greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. There are other greenhouse gases, but to keep it simple and easy to compare, we count it as CO2 equivalent. So part of our ecological footprint is actually our carbon footprint. It is the amount of CO2 equivalent that is released into the atmosphere as a result of our activities. In my case, about half my ecological footprint is carbon, and worldwide it is about 60%. We can also calculate the carbon footprint of the world, a country, a business, an individual, an event, a product, etc. For example, when we travel with a vehicle that burns fossil fuels, it clearly releases carbon into the atmosphere. If I use an electric vehicle, then the question is, how is the electricity produced? In the United States and China, for instance, the two countries with the largest carbon footprint, about 65% of the electricity is produced from fossil fuels. So there is a good chance that even an electric car generates a lot of carbon dioxide. But I'm already getting into how the carbon footprint is calculated. So how do we do that? Well, you're going to need a pen, a notebook, a calculator. No, I'm kidding. Calculating your carbon footprint is like many other things nowadays. There is a website for it. If you are in the US, I recommend this one. If you are in the UK, I recommend this one. If you are anywhere else, I recommend this one. Essentially, you enter how much energy it takes to heat your home, how much driving and flying you do, how much money you spend on food, clothes, technology, investments, etc. And the engine behind it translates everything into how many metric tons of carbon equivalent that is. Adding it all up at the end, you get your carbon footprint. Mine is 8.63. It is significantly lower than the average in Canada, where I live, but you can see that it is significantly higher than the world's average and, more importantly, to the worldwide target. Where does this target come from? The scientific community agrees that when we use fossil fuel, it releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which makes its temperature rise. We have emitted so much of these greenhouse gases over the past century that the Earth is getting warmer than it has been over the past 400,000 years. We found that out by drilling ice cores in Antarctica, which is the topic of another video you can watch if you like. So we need to reduce our emissions, which means we need to reduce our carbon footprint. How do we do that? One option is carbon offsets. This means paying a certain amount of money depending on your emissions that will go towards a program designed to reduce the same amount of carbon emissions somewhere else in the world, either by planting trees, building a wind farm, a solar power plant, etc. When you calculate your carbon footprint, some calculators will give you a link to offset your carbon emissions. If I choose this one, for instance, it would cost me less than $100 Canadian to offset my carbon emissions for the entire year. Great deal, right? But here is the rub. Planting trees does not make airplanes fly, yet. So offsetting does not keep the fossil fuels, the carbon, in the ground. It just transfers the problem onto another project somewhere else in the world while we keep extracting them. In a way, it is like killing panda bears and donating to WWF to protect them. Carbon offsets should be seen as a great way to fund tree planting and renewable energy projects around the world in order to transition away from fossil fuels, not as a long-term solution. The best way to reduce my carbon footprint is to address its root causes, so the carbon is not extracted in the first place. I can live in a smaller home, improve its insulation, heat it with geothermal energy, for instance, use less electricity, have the electricity I use produced from renewable energy, walk and bike to drive less with my car. When I do drive, I use a very efficient vehicle, maybe an electric vehicle, given that the electricity is mostly hydro where I live, fly less, eat less meat, especially beef, which generates a lot of carbon emissions. And finally, one we don't talk about very often, be smart with my investments, meaning the money I give to financial institutions through my mortgage and insurance products. Why? Because most banking and finance organizations invest my money into fossil fuels. According to carbonfootprint.com, if I cut my mortgage, it would reduce my total annual carbon footprint by 2 metric tons, 20% of my total carbon footprint. Finally, according to the 2020 GAP report published by UNEP, the 10% part of the population that earns the most money have just about the same collective carbon footprint as the other 90%. So it is our entire system that is dysfunctional. And at the end of the day, the best way to reduce our carbon footprint is to take action and to vote for those who will help create the new systems that we need.
Okay, thank you. Now let's move on to how are we going to move on to the net zero. There are several ways, as what we have watched at the video just now, in which the companies or organizations can take actions towards reducing carbon footprint. Switching 100% renewable resources or consumption is a great step, along with running campaigns and also awareness, investing in various environmental projects, and paying green taxes. Promoting energies and efficiencies in all sectors of operations, and also improve quality of daily operation, optimizing various production processes, and better management also leads to how these resources and equipment can actually reduce the carbon footprint as what we have now. Fortunately, there is a wide array of renewable energy sources that companies can choose based on their requirements or maybe locations and delivery of chain. And we know that we can go further to supply this value chain either using the intelligent cloud storage system or smart technology of artificial intelligence solution also can improve the flow of information that supplies towards this promoting circular of economy and applying the principles that also highlight the thought that provide advantages to the companies. I would also like to share, based on my readings, on the two findings on CSR, on improving the social responsibility and also performance of a company and how they lead to reduce a carbon footprint. Using an international sample of 45 countries from 2002 and 2017, the study by Said 2021 found that the existence of CSR or corporate social responsibility community improves the firm's social responsibility and effectively mitigates a carbon footprint. So that's the findings by Said 2021. Another study, on the other hand, by Oyewo 2023, published in a Journal of Environmental Management, in which it stated that investigation of the impact of a corporate governance mechanism. So there are many forms or mechanisms of corporate governance mechanism, such as the board meeting, board independence, board gender diversity, EO or CEO duality, and ESG-based composition, where it was found that in multinational entities or MNEs showed that board gender diversity, CEO duality, and ESG committee have negatively associated with carbon emission. And this study only used 336 top MNEs as sample in 42 non-financial industries from 32 countries over a period of 15 years. Let's we move away forward, ladies and gentlemen. According to the series of United Nations reports, the Sustainable Development Goals, scientists and governments analyzing the availability of data agreed that limiting global temperature rise to no more of 1.5 degrees Celsius is important and essential to avoid actually what the severe of climate disasters and climate change in our planet, the life of us. Future predictions paint a worrying picture, however, as current policies point to set at a 2.8 degrees Celsius temperature rise by the end of this century. Luckily, there are now multiple climate change solutions that can deliver not only short-term, but also long-term lasting environment and benefits while protecting the health of humans, and global frameworks also can be used to actually ensure countries have needed of guidance and support along the process of these sustainable development goals. On the other hand, the United Nations Framework of Convention on Climate Change can be applied as the Paris Agreement also take into place. This is a great opportunity for countries worldwide to take action in right direction to these proposals that also relies on the promotion of circular economy and the implementation of renewable energies, and also one of powerful ways to reduce ecological footprint. And the use of capable detaining of CO2 and reuse it efficiently would also reduce the carbon footprint in effect of climate change. As a conclusion, what we can conclude is that companies deal with corporate ecological sustainability through strategies and activities in which corporate ecological sustainability is by showing the establishment of relationship that multiple stakeholders tailored into their demands. It is not only the shareholders, but also the stakeholders or multiple stakeholders that need to take part or responsibility in all the effort. And I would like to thank you for listening to this humble knowledge sharing session, and I hope you have a pleasant and a nice stay at Jakarta per se for this Iabc 22-24 to be a sweet memory to all of you. On that note, I end with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Associate Professor Dr. Sauna Zainun for delivering the keynote speech in this event.
To Associate Professor Dr. Sauna Zainun, please kindly remain on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let us together witness the exchange of university gift between the Rector of Perbanas Institute and Rector of UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia. The first gift exchange will be from Perbanas Institute to UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia. Followed by the gift exchange from UITM Cawangan Johor, Malaysia to Perbanas Institute, Indonesia.
This will be followed by awarding the certificate of appreciation to all the panelists and moderators. To Ibu Eka Fitria MBA, the Director of Treasury and International Banking PT Bank Mandiri Persero Tbk, and then to Ibu Dr. Sahara from IPB University. And also we are going to awarding the certificate for the panelists who are joining online. Professor Michael G. Van, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, Pak Michael. We like to convey the
Invite all the vice rectors to come forward, Prof. Haria Damar and also Prof. Hermanto, Prof. Harida Umar.
Also Dr. Farida.
And also to all the deans, Ibu Hedwigis ST, Ibu Lucy and Prof. Step Subanija. And before we have the ventilation, we also invite the moderator, Ibu Dr. Tifanur Amelia.
So ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to the next agenda, which is the presentation by the panelists. And for this session, I would like to invite Ibu Dr. Tifa Nur Amelia, who will be acting as the seminar moderator.
Ibu Dr. Tifa Nur Amelia, she earned his Doctor in Management Science from Brawijaya University and also postdoctoral fellow from Northern Illinois University of America. And she's now currently serves as the head of management study program at Perbanas Institute. So, ladies and gentlemen, we kindly invite Ibu Dr. Amelia at this session, and the time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and welcome to Perbanas Institute for our audience guests from Malaysia, UITM for having us as a partner for a long time. And this is has been implementation of our partnership since 2021. And the audience of this conference consists of 7 countries, if I'm not mistaken, the last paper submitted. So hopefully our audience, whether who come offline and online, virtually, will enjoy this show. Our conference entitled with the 8th International Accounting and Business Conference in topic of sustainability and corporate social responsibility in carbon footprint. And our first speaker will be, or our first session will be conducted offline, and the speaker will be Dr. Sahara from IPB University and Ibu Eka Fitria, Director of Treasury and International Banking from PT Bank Mandiri. For both of our speakers, we welcome you on stage. Please welcome to our stage. Welcome, Ms. Sahara. Welcome, Ms. Eka. Okay, and our second session will be panelists from online session. Will be conducted from United States and India. We have Professor Michael Fan and Professor Bima Rayametri from India. That will be our second session. Okay, the first speaker will be Ms. Sahara, Dr. Sahara. Your paper, our admin already standby. Before that, I would like to express the CV of Ms. Sahara. Okay, Dr. Sahara, having her PhD in University of Adelaide, Australia, and master degree from IPB University Indonesia and bachelor degree from IPB University Indonesia. And her work experience up to now as the Director of International Trade Analysis and Policy Studies, IPB University, and lecturer at the Department of Economics, and then Adjunct Associate Community Forum in Adelaide University, Australia, member of Statistical Community Forum, Forum Masyarakat Statistik Bappenas BPS, and then General Secretary Indonesian Economic Study Program, Deputy President Southeast Asia International Trade and Finance Association. And then her research activity and research focus related to the economics, digital economics, food policy, food market transformation, and then actively involved in international and national research collaboration and writing opinion in several national newspaper and also plenty of books and research paper, I believe. And her topic for today's conference is about green economy, corporate social responsibility, and food security. Before we are going to Ms. Eka, I think we give Ms. Sahara the session to present your material. Time is yours.
Kayaknya kejauhan. Ya udah ini aja. Next aja deh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thanks to Rektor Perbanas and also the Rector of University Technology Mara for inviting me in this forum. As requested, the topic of my presentation is green economy, corporate social responsibility, and food security. Next. This is my brief CV since the moderator has already introduced me, so I will skip this part. Next. Okay, let me start my presentation with the introduction. As already outlined by Dr. Sauna, that at this moment we are facing the triple planetary crisis. And according to this figure, the triple planetary crisis refers to the three interrelated problems: climate change, loss of biodiversity, and pollution. And we know that each of these problems is crisis with its own cause and effect, but all three converge and feed on each other. And one of the consequences of the triple crisis is the increase of CO2 concentrations that has reached its highest level in the history, approximately 42 billion tons. And from this figure, we can also see that food system was responsible for 26% of the global emissions, with the highest contribution come from the livestock and fishery sector, followed by crop production and also land use activities. Next, the triple planetary crisis, of course, significantly impact on global food system. As we can see here, that the increase in frequency and intensity of flood and drought will reduce the quantity and the quality of food crops, and also disrupt the food distribution channel and leading to increased food prices. We know that increasing in price will reduce the purchasing power of consumers and will increase the number of poverty rate in Indonesia. We in ITEPS next actually has already tried to quantify the impact of climate variability and export ban on the global rice markets by using computable general equilibrium and econometrics model. And the results show that the climate variability negatively affect on global rice production, with the highest decline occurring in Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. And of course, reducing in production will increase the global price of rice by about 6.5% and decrease the value of global trade by about 1.02%. And from this table, we can see that on the expenditure side, all rice producing and consumer countries are predicted to experience a decline in real GDP. And what about Indonesia? Specifically, in Indonesia, will experience reduce in real GDP by about 0.12% and 0.13% under the simulation 1, the climate variability, and simulation 2. When we combine the climate variability and the export ban of rice from India and Myanmar. Next. And to address the triple planetary crisis, as Dr. Sauna outlined previously, there is an urgent need and for collective and transformative action to implement sustainable development. As we can, at the policy level, the majority of countries in the world have adopted a sustainable initiative. As we can see in this table that European Union has already launched European Green Deal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. Japan has already committed to achieve zero CO2 from fossil fuel in agriculture, forestry, and also fishery sector. And similar situation in the United States and also in ASEAN countries that also committed to enhance the quantity and the quality of food production with the implementation of green technologies and resource management system. What about Indonesia? Of course, as the part of the global community, Indonesia has also made a commitment to achieve net zero emission target by 2060 or earlier by implementing low emission plans, water efficient, and also by utilizing organic fertilizers. Additionally, next, many countries have transformed their agri-food system to become more nutritious and healthier, greener and lower carbon, and more efficient, resilient, and inclusive in order to achieve long-term food security. And from this figure, we can see that the sustainable food system consists of 3 pillars: economic pillars, social pillars, and also environmental pillars. All the 3 pillars serve as the foundation to generate food security and nutrition of future generation. Next. What about the food security situation in Indonesia? Based on the Global Food Security Index in 2022, Indonesia ranked 63rd out of 113 countries. And within the 4 pillars in the Global Food Security Index, Indonesia performed best in the pillars of affordability with the score of 81. Yes, we do have a very big homework in the pillar of sustainability and adaptation. The right one, the right side, I mean. In this pillar, Indonesia only had a score less than 60. Particularly in the pillar of water and political commitment to adaptation, Indonesia only had the score lower than 30. And talking about the productivity and sustainability of farmland in Indonesia, next, we can see from this figure that about 89% of Indonesian agriculture land is in unsustainable status. And other major limiting factors contributing to the sustainable agriculture sector in Indonesia include high risk of pesticide use, land tenure issue, loss of biodiversity, and risk of fertilizer use. Next, and to promote green economy, Indonesia has launched its circular economy strategy or roadmap, focusing on 5 sectors, including food and drinks, construction, electronic, textile, and also retail. It is expected actually that the implementation of circular economy in Indonesia can increase GDP about 500 until 600 trillion rupiah in 2030, absorb about 4.4 million green jobs created by 2030, and reduce waste by 18 until 52%, and reduce greenhouse gas emission by 126 million tons of CO2. And as we can see here, there are 2 main strategies to implement circular economy in the food sector. The first strategy is to improve the quality of input for producing food, and the second is prevention and utilization of food residue and also waste. And we know, next, the implementation of circular economy is not such an easy task. Based on our collaboration research with AREA, we found that actors along the agri-food value chains in ASEAN countries, including Indonesia, face several challenges in order to implement the sustainable agri-food system. Among the challenges, finance and market access, education and capacity building, human and agricultural inputs are included as the top 3 challenges perceived by the actors along the value chain when they want to implement the sustainable agri-food system. Next, in fact, the access to finance together with other facilitation include as the main incentive to encourage stakeholders along the agri-food value chain to go green. This show, this situation, next, this situation show the importance of CSR or corporate social responsibility as the source of the green finance. The corporate social responsibility can play a complementary role in driving sustainability finance by encouraging responsible business practices and also supporting green initiatives. The main questions are how to allocate the CSR that can support sustainable practices in agri-food sectors, and to whom the corporate social responsibility should be allocated. Next, in order to answer the two questions, how and whom, we can utilize the agri-food value chain framework. Next. As we can see in this figure, there are several actors involved in the agri-food value chains, including farmers at the production side, and the intermediaries. The intermediaries include farmer groups, cooperatives, cluster, or other small medium enterprises that involved in the agriculture sector. And another actors are agri-food processor companies, that has a role as the off-takers. Besides have the roles as the intermediaries, the farmer groups, cooperatives, and also cluster can also have a role as the early stage of processors that can contribute to added value creation along the agri-food value chain. While the government, business, academic, community, and also financial institutions have the roles to support and also to improve the performance of agri-food value chains. And in order to reduce the transaction costs dealing with a lot of smallholder farmers, and also to ease the monitoring process, the social corporate responsibility should be targeted to the farmer groups, cooperatives or cluster, or other small medium enterprises that involved in the agri-food value chain. Next. The next question is, which farmer group should receive corporate social responsibility support? Based on collaboration research with Bank of Indonesia and ITEP's IPB with the title of Pilot Project and Guidelines Green Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Business Model, there are 24 indicators that can be used to assess green, micro, small, medium enterprises in the agriculture. Next. The indicators can be grouped into 4 aspects: the production, marketing, human resource, and also financial aspect. Some indicators include as the mandatory, while other indicators can be categorized as the complementary indicators. Next. And then, based on the 24 indicators, the small, medium enterprises or farmer groups or cooperatives or cluster can be classified into 4 stages. Next. The first is pra-eco adopter. The second is eco adopter. The third is eco entrepreneur, and the fourth is eco innovator. Pra-eco adopter refers to the small medium enterprises or farmer groups that has not fulfilled any green indicator, while eco adopter refers to the farmer group that has already fulfilled 5 green indicators in the aspect of waste management, motivation for implementing green, gender, allocation environmental cost, and financial statements recording. And for eco-entrepreneurs, refer to the farmer groups that have already fulfilled 10 indicators, while the eco-innovators refers to small medium enterprises or farmer groups that have already fulfilled 15 green indicators. Next. Details of the indicators and the criteria to classify the small medium enterprises or farmer groups are presented in this table. And for example, for the production aspect, we can categorize with respect to waste management. If at least 20% of production waste has been managed by the farmer group, we can categorize them as the eco-adopter. if about 20% until 50% of production waste has been managed by the small medium enterprises or farmer groups, so we can categorize them into the eco entrepreneurs. If more than 50% of production waste has been managed by the farmer groups, so we can categorize them at the eco innovator stage. And detail of other criteria or indicators are available in the guideline of green, micro, small, medium enterprises published by the Bank of Indonesia. And companies in Indonesia aiming to promote green economy within the agriculture sector can utilize the guidelines when allocating their CSR resources. And this is the conclusion and implication. Next. Amidst the triple planetary crisis, climate change, biodiversity loss, and also pollution, sustainable development initiative must be adopted by the policymakers and actors along the agri-food value chain. And considering that the finance support and market access are the main constraint to implement the sustainable agriculture and food system, corporate social responsibility is one of the green finance instruments. And corporate social responsibility should be targeted to the small medium enterprises in order to ease the monitoring process and also to ensure benefits are equally distributed amongst members. And by applying criteria of green actors, eco-adopters, eco-entrepreneurs, and eco-innovators, the corporate social responsibility intervention can be customized based on need assessment and leveling toward green transition. The higher the level, the higher CSR fund that can be distributed to the beneficiary. And CSR should be designed accordingly so it can prolong the impact and support green transition in the long run in order to support the sustainability development in Indonesia. I think that's all about my presentation, and thank you very much.
Big applause for Dr. Sahara. Thank you for your presentation. Dr. Sahara, you may take a seat and a little break. We continue to our second presenter, to Ms. Eka Fitria, MBA, Director of Treasury and International Bank Mandiri Indonesia. Administrator, you can share the short CV or brief CV of Ms. Eka, so our audience also can access it. Ms. Eka Fitria, MBA, having her Master Business Administration in e-business school and then Bachelor of Law in Pajajaran University. Her working experience right now since March 2023, Managing Director in Bank Mandiri Persero Tbk as Treasury and International Banking, and then Senior Vice President after 2021 in International Banking and Finance Institution Group, PT Bank Mandiri Persero, Senior Vice President since 2021 to 2021, Treasury Group, PT Bank Mandiri as well, and then member of Statistical Community Forum, Forum Masyarakat Statistik Bappenas BPS, and then General Secretary Indonesian Economic Study Program, and then Deputy President of Southeast Asia International Trade and Finance Association. Her expertise in related to the Treasury, international banking, trade finance, and managing relationship with financial institution and capital market. Ms. Eka Fitria, MBA, you have 20 minutes or around that. Time is yours.
Thank you. But I would like to maybe revise the CVs because I think like the last three of the VT, I think it's not belong to me. Okay. So I do not want to take credit of it. Maybe my assistant was kind of sleepy when when managing that CV. Thank you. So allow me. Good morning, distinguished guests. Of course, I would like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to Pak Rektor Hermanto, as well as Ibu Sauna, Ibu Rektor, as well as all of the faculty members, the deans, and professors joining us today. I think this is a very insightful morning that we are gathered here in Perbanas, and myself as part of the industry actor, as mentioned earlier by Ibu Doktor, would like to share maybe some of the practices that we are currently having in the financial industry. So the topic for this morning I would like to share will be consist of three main parts. Zudi, if you can move to the next slide, please. First, we are going to talk about sustainability in general that has been extensively covered by Ibu Rektor as well as Ibu Doctor. And we are going to discuss how the implementation in the financial industry, specifically in Bank Mandiri. And the next, we would like to learn as well as having a follow-up discussion on what will be the challenges as well as the commitment that we can have further afterwards. The next slide, I would like to frame the discussion basically on the implementation of sustainable aspects in business practices, starting from the SDGs in the 2015, and then Indonesia also committed in signing the Paris Agreement in 2015 as well. The implementation of that Paris Agreement reflected in the Indonesia's enhanced NDCs in 2022, where we have put a very granular effort that we are trying to minimize the emission in Indonesia. So the target will be reduced by 31.9% if it is solely by Indonesian effort, but hopefully by the support from international community, it can be enhanced into 43.2%. And not only that, the regulation is one thing, but the encouragement as well as pressure from community and international organization also play important role. On the next slide, I'm going to highlight how the investors as well as rating agencies also play important roles in putting specific pressure in order for all of the financial market participants not only realizing the benefit of following such principles, as we may aware, like 17 goals and 169 parameters in SDGs is not easy to follow. That therefore, like the encouragement, the pressure and continuous communication regarding this via the emphasis on how we can make a sustainable and responsible investment, it also make a very important address on how the financial industry should continue moving forward. When in the initial presentation, it was told that CSR will play important role. However, it's not only that. It's not only something that we do voluntarily, but it has to be embedded in the system where our daily as well as regular business practices should be underlined by such principle. Therefore, we need to pay attention of these stakeholders, right? The investors for institution like Mandiri. It is very important to have our investors on board. As public companies, we address different kind of stakeholders. The rating agencies will assess as well how we implement all of those principles, not only on our operational, but also on how we extending the facilities. Our customer also play important role. The preference. Nowadays, I'm gladly saying that the younger generation have better understanding as well as better preference on how to make the earth livable for them as well as for their son and grandsons, right? So as you may see on the presentation, uh, around 50% of them having a preference not only working towards a company that have a clear commitment on sustainability, but also in buying products as well as being part of the service industry that have a strong commitment in sustainability. All of these stakeholders need to be addressed properly. The development in the regulations also shows how Indonesian government, particularly I'm going to address on the regulators in financial business, which is OJK, how they try to have a strong commitment in Indonesian players, starting from the ratification of the Paris Agreement, as I mentioned earlier, and they also have a very clear guidelines on how Indonesia can achieve the SDGs. The OJK also provide a very granular regulations, not only on the green taxonomy as the guidelines, but the latest regulation, which is POJK number 18/2023, not only regulating about green bonds, but also they are formulating a very clear guidance on sustainability bonds, sustainability linked bonds, as well as the social bonds. We also have benchmarking to our Southeast Asia countries. Interestingly, a lot of the products that have been generated by financial industry also pay significant importance to sustainability. Once I went to Singapore, and one of the banks over there already sell the carbon credits, not only via the, how do you call it, for the wholesale business, but also for the retail business. As simple as if someone understanding, okay, I'm still using my own car instead of public transportation to the office, my activity emitting gas emissions. So I would like to set it off, and on their mobile banking apps, they can buy carbon credit for individual customers. So that's one of the example on how our neighboring countries already have innovation as well in providing financial services. The implication of that, we can see a very encouraging development in international financial instruments, where we can see in the chart how the tremendous development has been happening, even though during 2022 it hindered a bit due to the geopolitical tension as well as uncertain economic outlook. Currently, the higher financing costs also a specific concerns that we need to address on how we can make the sustainability related products in financial industry can be even moving forward. One of the major topics that currently ongoing with every eyes and every discussion, not only in political as well as in economics, looking at green and sustainability, is how we can shape that the concerns and the effort, it's not only for marketing campaign. So the greenwashing risk of all of the effort has been a very serious concern that we need to address. Here, we can mitigate the effort of marketing campaign only that we call greenwashing by having corporate sustainability and accountability on how they are conducting the initiatives. Not only one event, hit and go, but how it can have the sustainability practice on regular basis. And we can also encourage the improvement on the transparency. A lot of independent organizations producing reports regarding this, and this definitely helps. Last but not least, stronger regulatory frameworks also play important role in make sure that any activities, any initiatives related to green and sustainability is not only a one standing act. The next slide, I'm going to share about what we are have been doing in Bank Mandiri, as well as mostly in treasury as well in wholesale business. So Mandiri is committed in supporting to achieve the net zero emissions of Indonesia, and we have determined that we are going to achieve of NZE operations of Bank Mandiri in 2030 and NZE financing by 2060. What are the difference between the two? I will elaborate on the next slide. So we have 3 pillars in sustainability. So the first one will be sustainable banking. The sustainable banking is an initiative on how Mandiri can lead Indonesia's transition to low carbon economy. This is consisting, among others, integrating our ESG aspects in business process, on how we can develop the sustainable portfolio products, and we can also becoming the influencers of the key policymaker to accelerate Indonesian low carbon economy. The second pillar will be sustainable operation. It is like all of the initiative that we are doing in order to lower the emission based on our own operations, on how we can address the gas emission from our buildings, from our activities, from our practices day to day, lessening the paper usage, and then encouraging the usage of communal transportation, as well as transferring from the regular fossil fuel automotive into like more electric vehicle. Last but not least will be sustainability beyond banking. So in the previous discussion, it has been addressed that we need to address the MSME. So we have the empowerment by doing the digipreneurship, where we have different kind of hub that are addressing all of this MSME in using the digital approach that can reduce the carbon emission on their sustainable practices doing their business. So related to this discussion, I'm going to focus on the first pillar, which is the sustainable banking. What have we done and what are we going to continue doing? In the treasury aspect, Bank Mandiri has been the forefront, and we may say that we can be the pioneer of the funding effort that is related to sustainability. Since 2020, we already issued the US dollar sustainability bond. It was priced as the lowest yield or coupon that ever issued by any other banks in Indonesia, and it's granting around 300 million US dollars. And we continue to do so by doing the first ESG repo transactions in 2022 and resulting around 500 million US dollar for 4 to 5 years. And this is pioneered by Mandiri. We continued as well in 2023 issuing the green bond domestic issuance amounting up to 5 trillion, and it was oversubscribed gladfully, and the risk premium is definitely lower than the regular issuance. On the aspects of lending, on the aspect of lending, we can say that Bank Mandiri is the leader because we have market share more than 30%, definitely higher than other banks, and it continues to grow. And the wide range solution, as you may see, maybe it's quite small in this screen, but I'm going to elaborate how we are going to have the client-centered approach. I was discussing with Professor Hermanto this morning on how Mandiri is actually providing education as well as influence into our prominent customers, because up to the moment, the incentive of doing the sustainability as well as green related initiative in each commercial or industry itself still costly. So we need to provide a long-term vision on the cost that may be bear in the first 1 to 2 years that will resulting in a very profitable long-term result for the companies. Most of the industry like coal, mining, construction, for example, it will be the ones that we are targeting to have the transition. However, we would like to send a strong message as well that Indonesia is doing the transition process in a just transition process, not abruptly, all of a sudden, accommodating every single parameters that has been determined into like specific standard, European standard, for example. We need to have some adjustment regarding that matter. However, the milestone and the building block has been put in place. Currently, we have what we call ESG desk in our corporate as well as commercial banking groups that can help our customer to look at their emission, to calculate their emission, to find opportunity to transition from existing business model into more sustainable business model. The second part, we also have product suites that can help them to do so. We extended green loans as well as sustainability linked loans that we set together with our customers. Most of it, of course, our utilities company, the biggest and one and only utilities company in Indonesia, and other prominent players in coal and mining, for example, to ensure that they can minimize and have a solid plan, not only within the year, but also up to 5 to 10 years ahead. And when we are granting loans, for example, previously, most of the RMs, most of the credit committee will only look at the viability of the financing aspects. Currently, we also put into the risk the sustainability risk assessment as well. So we are going to have an incentive for a company that have already put in place a very clear guidance to their transition model, for example, not only in the assistance, but also we can also help in providing them with a better pricing, for example. We surely hope that by doing this, as I mentioned on the next slides, really sorry for this very small fonts, but all of this initiative, we are trying to make sure that we are not only working on the self-voluntary aspect of it, but we also embed the principles into the process of extending our financing. Next. After all of the practices, after all of the approach, after all of the benchmarking that we have done, so what will be the challenges and the opportunities ahead? We are looking at the regulatory compliance as one of the most important factors. Most of the countries that have successfully delivered significant progress in ESG have a very strong and granular regulations. Indonesia already have the foundations, but together I think we need to make an influence. All of the academia, all of the professors here definitely can provide a solution as well as a proposal that can be impactful to enactment of the regulations that can support the foundation regulations that we already have. The second challenge will be market uncertainty. We know that during the crisis of Russia and Ukraine war, even the European going back to coal for their source of energy. So we definitely hoping that this kind of uncertainty do not hinder the progress ahead. Third will be the stakeholder alignment. As we know, between the developed countries and developing countries, there will be different type of interest, different type of values. How to align this and get together into a better future will be a challenge. From Millennium Development Goals into the Sustainability Development Goals, the implementation, some of the person when they are doing the evaluations, telling that COVID, the 3 years of COVID is actually halting the progress of this. However, if we would like to be honest, sometimes it is also aligning the stakeholders' interests that halted this as well. Data and reporting, boring but still important. So this will help us to maintain the accountability of the initiatives. However, among all of those challenges, the opportunities are still huge. So we are working together to continue the development of green financing products, and we believe that this can be a market differentiation for market participants. And we also understand that what we are doing now is a long-term risk mitigation, and we definitely understand there is an ongoing demands for the ESG products. Therefore, we understand in the long run, it's not cost, but it will beneficial for all of us. So we definitely need support from the regulators, and we are still trying to provide incentives for the green financing, and we are extending our partnership and collaboration. One of them included is with Perbanas as well as with UITM, like what we are doing this morning. Thank you for your attention and looking forward for further discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Eka Fitria, MBA, for your presentation. And again, big applause for our first and second speaker. And for our audience offline and online, we will have a Q&A session. And for the best question, will be rewarded e-money from Mandiri Bank. So feel free to deliver your question, whether for Indonesian language or in English. We will help you to translate it for our speaker. So everyone from the Zoom meeting or from offline, we have 3 first questions. You may raise your hand for the first 3 questions. Okay, we will have 1 question from the second row seat. We have on the right side of the stage. And Mr. Jasman? Oh, okay. We have first 2 questions. Okay, ma'am, time is yours. Mention your name and for who the question will be mentioned. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you. My name is Putri Swastika. I'm from IAIN Metro, Lampung. It is really refreshing to hear from academia perspective and as well as industry perspective. Since I am academia, so I would like to raise the questions to the industry. For me, what we are talking about is we envision the future, but we're reluctant to do it now. And it seems that throughout your presentations, I mean, I understand the worry about the cost and the abrupt change, but sometimes we need to do the hijrah now in order to save our future. And of course, sustainability brings costs, and that costly indeed. And financing has been the bottom line, or has been the discussions where where are the funds, and we need to take the investors in. But if we understand the Islam, and Islamic finance has offered various solutions, from sukuk, for example, instead of bonds, as well as the cash wakaf that certainly can be fun, can be used to mobilize finance to support all of those initiatives. And I understand that Mandiri will not issue sukuk. I don't know if it is possible or not to issue sukuk or cash wakaf linked sukuk or any type of instruments, Islamic financial instruments that has a participating mechanism, because this is our risk together. and this is not, since I'm pregnant, this is the risk of our future as well. So I think there is a need, there is a sudden, there is certainly an urgent to have a abrupt movement from the upper level and the wholesaler instead of the micro level, or instead of the MSME. We understand that now we are in Lampung, for example, we have a farming which mobilize the circular economy, or using circular economy paradigm to produce pineapples. It's great giant pineapples. They abide the rules of their importers, because they need to reduce the emissions from the farmings as well as from the their activities. So the importers can tell the suppliers, the importers, they import pineapples to US, to Europe, to everywhere else, and their importers tell them to do so, to do the circular economy, and they did it. And they do well. And why don't we do also tell those, I don't know, we brag a lot about how mining, how nickel, and we need money and to build this and that, and but those also need to be taken care of. We extract the sources without thinking of the future. So I think it is really an urgent to have a sudden abrupt movement, or at least a hijrah, I would say, because this is our risk. Understanding that this is our risk, we may not know when we die or when will the mega trust happen, but this is our risk together, and this is not costly. I mean, if we think about sustainability always been that way, then there will be no hijrah. But this is a cost that we have to pay. So, so that is my comment on the presentation. The question is, will that be the how this? I mean, academia has been proposing the solutions. Me, from the Islamic finance perspective, we discussed a lot about the risk-sharing initiative instrument and etc. But it has never been picked up, or it has never been implemented by the industry. At least when I did my study in Malaysia, we talk a lot with the Bank Negara Malaysia about about these risk-sharing principles and how it can be done in monetary perspective, but it has never been done. Why would that be happen? I mean, what is the resistance, and why don't industry also understand that this is not about the cost, this is about the risk? As your operator, as your operation is always thinking about the risk, and this is also about the risk. So, what makes it so hard to do, to abruptly or changing the paradigm in a second?
Yeah.
So
okay.
that's the question. So sorry for taking
so
time.
Yeah, thank you so much from EIA and Metro.
Thank you.
And if I can make a brief question about the implementation of ESG, that not only narrative or not only formality, is it our responsibility, and how our first panelist and second panelist view on that matters. First, probably Ms. Sahara, and then Ms. Eka will deliver the comment on that. Time is yours.
Okay. What's your name again? Putri. Okay. Thank you, Putri. I respect your frustration. Okay? I understand your frustration. I respect your comments. And I encourage you to look wider and deeper. Why am I saying that? First of all, abrupt approach will never be good. We need to have a well-planned action items. As you may aware that the MDGs has going all the way long since the 80s. There's no such thing as a successful abrupt approach, right? So it's not a small scale initiatives. 196 leaders of the world has been thinking about this since the 80s. And we are experiencing not only the degradation, but some also an improvement, okay? So it's not always about narratives. There are also progress happening. Of course, if something negative happens, the magnitude will be 5 times higher. But we understand that the fight is not ending. The challenge is not diminishing. The victory is not there yet. Therefore, we are still having this kind of discussion. As an academia, when I was in school as well, everything is ideal. Everything can be done. But when you're a practitioner, a lot of consideration needs to be made. Okay? So why are we not, Ibu telling about how we are driving the MSMEs, me telling how we can have the initiative beyond lending into the MSMEs, because all of the big players are the one is actually implementing best practices. All of the big players is actually the one that help also minimizing the emissions, because they have reputation at stakes. They also the one that firstly we tap on when we come into an initiatives. But who are the one is emitting more emissions and under the radar? And when you collectively calculate that, that's even higher than the big players. That's why we need to educate the MSME players. As you mentioned earlier, the supply chain financing that happens in Lampung, the suppliers' effort, the stakeholders that I mentioned earlier, is not only happening into the MSMEs. Firstly, it's already been done with the big ones. Before they are going to the pineapple farmer, it has been done with the big players first. Maybe the narrative is not reaching into us yet, or not reaching into you yet. But the fact is, either that Islamic financing products or conventional financing products, both of them, as I mentioned, whether it's bonds, sukuk, wakaf, or we have angel investors as well, ya Bu ya? All of the effort has been taken in place. Your frustration will be, why is not big enough, right? Why is not big enough for a country like Indonesia to take that approach? Why there is no massive progress happening in Indonesia related to the ESG, right? You are comparing it with European community, For example, you are comparing it with developed countries that everything has been taken in place on how they do the recycling, on how they have the mindset, because their tummy has been full. When it has been granted your social level by the government, you can think further on the most or the more important part. But when you are still struggling to eat day by day, then this kind of discussion will not as sexy as you are discussing about social safety net, for example, right? So, do not lose hope. All we have to do is continue the fight that we are having, right? Continue doing your proposal into different kind of industry. And I believe, actually, I may correct your word, it's never been picked up. It may have been picked up because Mandiri itself already granted 300 trillion rupiah in ESG related financing. Mandiri itself. We have not count another Himbara, BRI, BNI, even BTN now having a strong initiative like what we are having, which is green mortgages. So the magnitude is already there. And negative tone will not help. So let's work together. And me, myself, personally, I do not believe in abrupt approaches. I always believe that we need to have a well-planned, actionable item to execute. That's why we were presenting the progress from year to year, and there are also a lot of sources. If we would like to expand, for example, how the Islamic financing can help, like best practices from different countries that implement it, and then we can apply it here, maybe in Indonesia, can also help. So, lift up the spirit, don't get frustrated because the progress has been made, but we definitely need to pursue this even further and to fight even harder. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eka. Addition from Dr. Sahara for this matter.
Yes,
Time is yours.
allow me to provide additional explanation for Mbak Putri here. We know that Mbak Putri and others, there is a trade-off when we implement the sustainable development. As I mentioned previously, that there are three pillars at the sustainable development: the economic pillar, the social pillars, and also the environmental pillars. And the trade-off occurs between the three pillars, particularly between the economic and then the environmental pillars. When we focus to improve the quality of our employment, we have to slow down a little bit with respect to the economic aspect. And sometimes some policy makers, in the short run, just focus on the economic aspect rather than environmental aspects. But as Bu Eka mentioned, that we have to be optimistic, Mbak Putri. Currently, as I explained, at the global level, the sustainable initiative have been adopted by many countries. For example, the European Union has already launched the Green Deal, and also Japan, and ASEAN countries, and also including in Indonesia. And in Indonesia itself, as I mentioned previously, that we have already launched the, what we call it, the circular economy roadmap as the for the top policy level. And hopefully with the roadmap, it can be implemented not only at the national level, but also at the regional level, and also among the actors along the value chains. I remember that last year, and also with colleagues from area, we tried to, and also including Malaysia at the time, we try to examine the awareness of the actors along the food value chain with respect to sustainability development. And the result is quite interesting, Bu. The majority of actors along the value chain actually have already aware with respect to the sustainability issue. But then, as I mentioned previously, that they face several challenges, particularly for the financial aspects. So that's why together in this morning we are discuss that one of the solution, one of the source for the financial aspect is the corporate CSR, corporate social responsibility. I think that's all.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Putri from IAI and Metro Lampung, and the feedback from our two panelists. The second session from the right side of the stage, Mr. Acong Antoro, your question, time is yours.
Thank you. My name is Acong from Perbanas Institute. Very interesting, both of you talking about what the academy doing and what the corporate doing about the sustainability. I have two questions actually. First, about the funding of Ibu Zahara research about the need of the CSR to help the farmer and the maybe small, medium enterprises to understand the sustainability principle. And the second one from Bu Eka, Ibu Eka mentioned about the programs of the Bank Mandiri to enhance the sustainability in reality. So I see there is a 2 point that very far away. The academy find we need corporate. The corporate said we have done it. My question is, how could both of us, as the academician and the corporate, join together to solve this situation? Big money, 300 trillion rupiah, but unfortunately, IPB doesn't know there is a lot of money from IPB, maybe Perbanas as well. The second question is, according to triple bottom lines principle, profit, people, and then planet. Is it time, I think, that we have to reverse the sequence of triple bottom line, people, planet, and then profits? Agree with Boeka, it's more than 30 years since the United Nations mentioned about the sustainability. Until now, the environment's becoming worse and worse. So, is it possible for both of you to tell us what should we do to ask the businessmen put people first before profit in any business decisions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Acong, for the question. Who's gonna respond first? Ms. Zahara?
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Zahara.
We take turn ya, Ibu ya. Pak Acong ya? Yes. Okay, Pak Acong ya, with respect to the financial aspect to help the, what we call it, small medium enterprises. As I mentioned previously, that CSR can be one of the source, complementary actually, as the source of green financing that can be accessed by the small medium enterprises actors. Of course, in order to implement the sustainable development, it needs a lot of money, particularly at the transition process. For example, when we ask farmers to reduce the number of chemical pesticides, in the short run, their productivity will reduce, of course. But in the long run, it will be good for the environmental aspect. So, there is a trade-off, as I mentioned previously. In the short run, of course, the farmer, why should I implement the organic fertilizer while the organic fertilizer will reduce my productivity? So the funding to compensate, particularly at the transition time, it is very important. For example, I read and also I discussed with colleagues from China, the government provides support to provide the, like what we call it, support for the reduction in productivity. For example, in the normal time, the farmers can produce 5 tons of paddy per hectare. But then when they utilize the organic fertilizer, they can only produce 4 tons per hectare. So the government provide the support for the gap, 1 ton per hectare. So can you imagine? It needs a lot of funding. So that's why the funding from government, of course, will not be enough to support the what we call it sustainable development. That's why we try to look for another source of the funding, CSR, and also I also work with YES program funded by IFAD. We try to collect the funding from the diaspora with respect to the sustainable development, whether they are interested to finance with their money, with their funding, the sustainable or the circular economy development in Indonesia. This is for the first question. And then for the second question, what should we do? In the short run, of course, as I mentioned previously, as the academici, we have to promote the sustainable development. I read, Pak Achong, there is only a few research or limited research that focus on sustainable development, particularly in Southeast ASEAN countries. So this is our opportunity to promote the sustainable development program in Indonesia, of course. And of course, for the colleagues from the Mara University, they can focus on Malaysia side. And then by using the, what we call it, the indicators that has been published by the Bank of Indonesia, 24 indicators. We can utilize the 24 indicators in order to measure whether the small, medium enterprises in Indonesia has already at the stage of what I call it the eco-adopters, eco-entrepreneurs, something like this. There is limited research, Pak, that focus on the on how to categorize the small, medium entrepreneurs that has already adopted the green indicators. That's all from me, Bu.
Ms. Eka, your feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Chong. Well, maybe we, both of us, is not having like 2 different ends in this concern. Maybe we are just looking at it from different perspective, right? So we both agree that everything not only need to be top bottom, but also need to be starting small. So when Ibu Sarah is talking about CSR, the scope of CSR can only do a limited impact. However, there are plenty of examples of the failure of such approach. But I think the industry, which is Mandiri, together with the academia as well as the government, still trying to look at the effective approach. Ya, Bu, ya. Previously, we have this PKBL, if Bapak and Ibu remember. It's a facility for micro economy in order to sustain themselves. It involved tens of trillions of rupiah with almost zero interest. And why this is packaged as financing in order to ensure accountability. Because most of the time when it is free, people will take it for granted. And that is also what happened with this PKBL program. That tens of trillion of rupiah is currently hilang tanpa bekas. Yeah. But we are not giving up. Okay, let's try another form. We would like to give them not the fish, right? But we would like to give them the fishing tools. So when Ibu were providing the scheme of the CSR, is actually trying to ensure that the middle in the chart was conducted by giving them the tools, not giving them the fish, right? So we always thinking that financing will change everything. But actually, we need to change the mindset. That is why we have the program now that we are calling the Digipreneur. If the farmer, we are also together with Tani Hub, working together with Tani Hub in order to provide them with cheap but quality fertilizer, for example. So Mandiri provide our CSR there, working together with several institutions that is really good in what they are doing. In digital aspect, for example, how they can market their hasil tanamannya ya, crops ya. When they can market their crops, not to the para pengijon, right? So we provide them with the digital capability in Digipreneur Hub. So they can have access to sell their crops in a more profitable way, for example. And we are not only talking about environment here, we are also talking about sustainability and inclusivity. So Mandiri is having a program, continuous program, that me personally doing it when I was in Hong Kong for 3.5 years, is the program what we call Mandiri Sahabatku. The program is equipping the migrant workers every week, a class on how they can become an entrepreneur when they are coming back. We teach them not only financial literacy to save their money for their modal, but also the program that we engage a prominent players. If they want to have automotive workshop, bengkel, in their kampung, we engage Astra. If they want to have a beauty salon, we engage Johnny Andrean. So we continue doing it, having around 800 until 1,000 migrant workers, alumni per year. And we are still having around 30 to 35% success rate from that alumni. When they come back, they becoming an entrepreneur in their own villages. So yes, it might not 100% successful, but we need to change from the small ones. And what do we need to tell the business? Definitely a lot of things, Pak. Making sure that they understand the impact of how they are doing business. For example, the coal contractors, right? Previously, they do not even bother to ensure that their operations is meeting the international standard. As long as it is meeting the local standard, then it's okay. Why should I meeting the international standard? But we encourage them, as Bu Putri said, you would like to make your product sellable internationally. So Mandiri also provide our own assessment, and we told them, okay, please fulfill these parameters in minings, in construction, for example, in coals. And we told them that by completing this, we ensure that you can access international market. With better pricing, you will be more profitable. So the cost incurred for improving the operational is actually nothing compared to the progression that you will be having. Maybe not in the first or the second year, but that's definitely going to have a very good progress ahead. So we have some kind of bridging financing when they are having that kind of cost. If Bu Sahara was telling us that the government is compensating the cost, compensating the gap, sometimes in our scheme in financing, during that costly period, we also have what we call the grace period, where they can have a holiday payment schedule, right? So that kind of approach has been done in certain type of industries. Currently, we have listed 11 industry that we are targeting with this kind of approach, right? In closing, I would like to refer to the example that Bu Sahara was given about the compensation and subsidy from the government. One of the obvious example in Indonesia is the fossil fuel subsidy. We should have subsidized the fossil fuel that is actually providing better octane, right? Not the other way around. But here in Indonesia, if we encourage that kind of behavior, there will be social unrest, right? So the academia will always play important roles, like I told Pak Rector earlier, on how we can have this behavior, like concerning from the behavior of every individual in Indonesia, starting from elementary school, nggak buang sampah sembarangan gitu ya, hemat air, all of those jargons that maybe we have had it on those early years, but whether it is enacted enough or not, because it's still not reflected in our daily lives. So we can tell the business what to do, but first I think we need to make sure that we tell us and we tell our family to start from small.
Thank you so much. Applause for our two panelists and inspiration from our two questions. I think we are going to come into the second session, so I think enough for our first session. If I can not make a conclusion, but inspired by both of our speaker and the question. First, this is a long journey, and a big idea doesn't stop here. As long as we are still talk about it, we have still optimism for the ongoing sustainability and CSR issue. And number two, about people, planet, and profit, we cannot leave anything behind. It probably trade-off when something must be speed up, one thing must be slowing down. So nothing left behind when we promoting profit, we still have to think about the people and planet. Even though if we still have to prioritizing people, we have to still think about the profit and planet. Okay, thank you for our first and second panelists, Ibu Eka and Ibu Sahara. You may come back to the front row session, and we are going to our second session. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you everyone for the offline guests and audience, and also we still have over 50 audience from the virtual Zoom. And if you want to go to the second session, you may prepare the question for our 3 and 4th panelists. We have Professor Michael Jivan, PhD from California State University, Sacramento. Thank you still having us here, Professor Michael. How are you?
Thank you.
I think it's almost
good. Thank you for having
midnight in the United States, and welcome for Professor Bimaraya Metri from Director of India Institute Management, Nagpur, India. You will have the fourth session after the presentation from Professor Michael Jivan. And without further ado, I will move my session into this side so you can enjoy the full screen virtually of Professor Michael Van presentation. The title of his talk will be a case study, right, Professor, about the taking stand for academic corporate social corporate responsibility, how a faculty advocating for Palestine in Palestinian people in California State University. So if we talk about the sustainability and CSR, it's not about the environment, but also we have social impact. And Professor Michael will deliver the case study that happening in his university. You have around 20 minutes. Professor, time is yours.
Okay, terima kasih, Bu. Thank you very much. Are you putting the PowerPoint up on the screen?
Administrator, you may turn on Professor Michael slideshow. Okay, wait for a second, Professor.
Okay. While it's coming up, I just want to thank the organizers, thank my fellow panelists. This is all very, very fascinating in terms of corporate social responsibility and is in line with some of the work I do. I will be very blunt and say that I do not work in environmental policy and carbon footprint, but I do work related to human rights issues. And what I'm going to offer is a case study today from my university regarding perhaps the fifth largest economy in the world. So this is a series of university systems for a real economic powerhouse. And the University of the California State University likes to call itself the People's University. And this is for two reasons. One, it's put arguably one of the greatest institutions for upward social mobility in the United States, maybe in the world because of its size and the impact it has on students' lives. And as a historian, I would say possibly in world history, that it is so big and so many students come through, and it has such a direct impact on their upward social mobility, increasing their salaries, increasing their earning potential, increasing their professional opportunities. The university also has a very, very deep and long-term commitment to social justice and responsibility. And that's the link to what I want to talk about today and the theme of your conference. The university system was founded almost 200 years ago in 1857. There are now 23 campuses, and the entire faculty and staff for the university is over 50,000 people. The number of students is just shy of 500,000 students. So again, this is the largest university system in the United States, without doubt. By some metrics, it could be the largest university system in the world, but I'm not going to get involved in that accounting issue. But it's extremely large. My campus, one of the 23 campuses, has over 31,000 students. And 1/3 of all of the university students in the CSU system, so 1/3 of that 457,000 students, are first generation, meaning that neither of their parents had gone to the university. So it's a tremendous vehicle for upward social mobility for these students. And in a recent report, of the top 25 universities, universities in the United States for upward social mobility, 50% of the top 25 were CSU campuses. So there's tremendous economic activity, tremendous social impact, tremendous engagement with underrepresented students who might come from lower income families or from historically marginalized ethnic or racial groups. We're a Hispanic serving institution, we're an African American serving institution, we're an Asian American serving institution. So the university sees itself as doing a lot of social responsibility work in terms, again, of social justice. It's a big part of the university's mission. And as faculty members, we try to keep the university honest to its mission and committed to that mission of social justice. The governance structure of the CSU system is at the very top is the California State Legislature and the governor. The legislature decides our budget, and the governor is very much involved in overseeing policy. Below the legislature and the governor is the CSU Board of Trustees, 25 members, 16 of which are appointed by the governor, and then others come from various organizations. The governor has to approve the other 9 members. So the governor has a very, very strong control over the Board of Trustees that supervises the university. Below the, I won't say below, but working with the Board of Trustees is the chancellor. She's pictured right there, Dr. Mildred Garcia. She's been with us since 2023. Absolutely brilliant woman. I'm very proud to be working for her, not just because she's my boss. I'm saying that, but she has a solid career in university administration, solid career in education administration, and a deep commitment to social justice issues. Below Chancellor Garcia are the campus presidents. And there's 23 campuses in the system, and each campus has its own president. Now, the university has organizations for representation for the faculty and the students. So there's the Academic Senate of the CSU. I'm a senator on that. I represent my campus. There's 3 senators for the larger campuses and 2 for the smaller. And we represent the faculty in the campus in the we represent the faculty interests to the chancellor and to the board of trustees. Below, excuse me, tied to the academic senate at the CSU level is each campus has an academic senate. So my campus, Sacramento State, San Francisco State, Chico State, all the universities have their own faculty senates where they elect faculty members to represent them. And then there's also the California Faculty Association, and that is our labor union. That is a union. And those are the mechanisms whereby the faculty are represented. Parallel to that, there's institutional organizations to represent the students. So there's the California State Student Association, which is all of the CSU campuses represented, and they get 1 seat on the faculty senate. And there's campus student associations for each campus. And these I characterize as institutionalized student groups. Now, our students are very politically active. They take a strong interest in the governance of the university and a strong interest in social issues, in political issues, in economic issues, in environmental issues. California, in many ways, is famous in the United States for having activist students who organize and protest and fight for their rights and for other issues. Many of the students might work with the California Student Association or the campus student associations, but many form their own organizations. And I refer to these as non-institutionalized student groups. Maybe a group around women's rights in the university or a society as a whole. Maybe environmental issues, and that's very strong in California. Also, there's organizing regarding the cost of going to the university. So many of these non-institutionalized student groups engage in non-institutionalized protest. Again, focused on tuition and costs, focused perhaps on issues of diversity or gender equity, environmental issues, quality of student life, what have you. And these students are very, very active. And most of their political action and their protesting has focused on the cost of the university, which has gone up dramatically. This past year, they raised the cost of the university 34% in one vote, 34%, huge tuition hike. And there was major mobilization by the students against that. Sometimes these student protests get very, very active and can get very, very large. And that causes a great deal of concern amongst the administration. They're a way to put pressure on the administration, as student protests are everywhere. But the administration, in their interests, they want to keep things calm. Now, primarily, as I said, the student activists have been focusing on tuition. However, there has been a strong component of students focusing on human rights issues. And as we all know, things really took a horrible turn this last year with the events in Israel and especially the events in Palestine. Prior to October 7th, many students were involved in the BDS movement: boycott, divest, and sanction. Boycotting Israeli products, divesting from investments in Israel, and sanctioning the state of Israel for human rights violations. October 7th happened, horrifying terrorist attack, and then we're all familiar with the response of the Israeli military, which has been, by many observers' accounts, not just mine, I'm going to stay neutral here, but many observers have deemed it as a genocide. California State University students refused to let this happen without protest. And you may have seen that there's protests throughout the United States at all of the major universities. Columbia University in New York got a great deal of attention, but at all of the Ivy Leagues, at the University of California, and then a large number of protests in the CSU system. And much of this protest movement comes from the frustration that we feel with our national government that is supporting Israel's military campaign in Gaza, which many view as unjust and even genocidal. But what's particularly frustrating is organizations such as the California State University system or individual campuses that have investments in or ties to Israel. And I don't have the numbers for the endowment of the California State University system, but I think it's around $3 or $4 billion. So it's a big chunk of money. And some of that money is invested in Israeli corporations. And there are calls to divest, to break those ties with the state of Israel and the Israeli economy, to put pressure on Israel in the name of human rights issues. Also, there's criticism of academic exchanges with the state of Israel. And I'm one who wants to keep academic exchanges going because education should go across boundaries. But in the situation with Israel, I had to ask myself, if I sent my Muslim students to Israel, would they be safe? And no, I don't think they would be. And that means some of my students can't participate in an intellectual exchange. And if they can't be safe, then we should not be partnered with that country. So student protests became increasingly intense. There were many marches, but there were also a new form of student protest, camps. And this actually is something that happened in the 1980s with protests against apartheid in South Africa and happened to a lesser degree in the 1960s. But they set up tents around campus and camped out until their demands were met. There were also building occupations where students would take over buildings, and there were clashes with the police. On my campus, the students occupied an area directly in front of the library. And this is the tent actually of one of my graduate students who was one of the main organizers. I'll leave them unidentified, but they were one of the main organizers of the movement. I've been very close communication with this individual, and they set up their tent and occupied this area, which they renamed Gaza Plaza in solidarity with the people of Gaza, and occupied it until the university would listen to their demands. And they organized press conferences. They had kitchens. There were people making food. It was very well organized and very orderly and very peaceful and very calm. At other campuses, things were not so calm. At Humboldt, one of the other CSU campuses, the students started initially writing graffiti with chalk, which could be washed away, but then started spray painting the buildings, sort of pushing the temperature up. The police were called out and there were confrontations with police. The students occupied a building, and the president of the campus called out the police to remove the students. And there was violence between the police and the students, which was horrifying to all of us. Nobody wants to see this at a university campus. Violence has no place at a university campus. And then the president shut down the campus, called out police that really looked like the army, and shut down the university. And so, in terms of corporate governance and social responsibility, what we have here is a situation where the campus presidents can exercise a great deal of authority and responsibility and perhaps listen to the students or perhaps confront the students. At my campus, Sacramento State, and at San Francisco State, I'm very proud to say that my campus president, President Luke Wood, met with the students, listened to the students, and proposed a socially responsible plan to divest from any investments tied to Israel. And he presented that to the students. The students looked at the proposal and said, fantastic, and they removed their camps. And this left a feeling of collaborative goodwill and optimism on the campus. Similar thing happened in Sacramento. At another campus, Sonoma State, the president listened to the students and he proposed a plan to divest, but also an academic boycott. And within 24 hours, his boss, the chancellor of the CSU system, fired him. He went too far in her eyes, and he was fired. And he's an administrator that I know and think very highly of, and we were all quite shocked by that. And this left a feeling of frustration and suspicion in the CSU system. At Humboldt, the university where I just showed you slides, where the police were called out and the campus was closed, that president was fired after 2 months for cracking down on the students. And this has left a lot of anger and a lot of resentment in the students, but also in the faculty and in the administration. So you have these different paths. You can produce collaboration and goodwill and optimism. You can produce frustration and suspicion. You can produce anger and resentment. Now, the Academic Senate of the CSU, of which I'm a member, represents the faculty interests, but because the faculty are very close to the students, we also represent the students. We are in contact with the students. So we represent our professional interests, the academic interests, but also the interests of the students and what they're calling for. And we have a direct line to the chancellor and the board of trustees. Now, we do not write policy, but we pass resolutions. We tell the president, we tell the board of trustees what the faculty think and what the students think. In November, we passed a resolution both condemning terrorism, but also condemning what was shaping up to look like Israel's military campaign that was taking on genocidal proportions. And we were very quick to put that out there and to let the administration know this is what we think. At the same time, we also called for a protection of freedom of expression for our students. They have the right to protest on the campus. As you know, things have only gotten worse since November 23 in Gaza and have also gotten worse in the West Bank. So all Palestinians are increasingly suffering. So in May 2024, we called on the chancellor to divest from Israel, but we had to phrase it in terms of Israel and other human rights abusers, because some members of our coalition didn't want Israel singled out. It needed to be a universal principle. We also opposed criminalizing student protest and urged the chancellor to follow the example of the successful presidents. We also voted no confidence in the campus president that called out the police, and that led to violence on the campus, the guy who got fired. We, as faculty members, are making these resolutions through institutionalized inputs. So we're giving the voice through formal institutional lines. At the same time, outside the building, in the streets, many students were protesting in non-institutionalized inputs. And the administration and the faculty are very aware that there are different ways to deal with this crisis. Some are going to be lead to more peaceful and collaborative resolution, and others are going to lead to more confrontation. So as I wrap up here, what's next? Well, the situation in Israel and in Palestine is getting worse every day, as I'm sure you know. We have been on vacation. The campus starts teaching in 2 weeks. The CSU Senate will meet in 5 weeks. And I guarantee that the Senate will pass more faculty demands for the chancellor and the board of trustees to meet their promises of social justice for students and for corporate social responsibility in terms of the university's investments. So I have to give you a be continued for this case study. because, as you well know, the situation is not over. Now, what are the lessons for corporate social responsibility, the theme of this conference? Well, corporations, if they look at the example of this case study of the California State University, need to be ready for non-institutional inputs and be aware that they're going to be disruptive. This could be boycotts of a corporation. This could be labor strikes in that corporation. And they need to be ready for those non-institutional inputs. And sorry, there's a typo there. It shouldn't be create, it should be create mechanism. They should also create mechanisms for institutional inputs to create collaborative possibilities. So employee advisory councils or senates, I think the model of the faculty senate at the university could go to a very large corporation to allow the employees to have a institutionalized way of communicating to the corporate board in regards to issues of human rights, social justice, or the environment. The theme here is the carbon input. Or they can engage in good faith discussions with unions, with labor organizations. And I think that many major corporations could learn from the example of the California State University system. I offer the university system as an example, again, because I can give you a firsthand account, but also because we are so big, we are at enterprise scale and can be compared to major corporations. Again, I know that this was playing a little trick with you. I moved away from talking about environmental issues, talking about Palestine and human rights. But again, you could do a cut and paste here for the purposes of this conference and talk about these issues in this case study in terms of human rights or environmental issues. Thank you for your time. I hope that was clear and I hope that was useful. And again, thank you to the organizers. It's a real pleasure to be and an honor to present at this conference. And I'm done.
Is it working? Okay. Thank you for Professor Van for your insightful case studies in CSU. Okay, we have, I think everyone here have a lot of questions, but before that, we have our fourth presenter, Professor Michael. Please bear with us. We will listen to the fourth panelist from India, Professor Bima Raya Metri, Director of Indian Institute and Management Nagapur, India. Are you here, Professor Metri?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you, Professor?
Yeah, I am fine, good.
Okay, thank you. We are so happy to have you here. You have around 20 minutes for your presentation session, and your paper will be entitled with collaboration between the corporation and education sector in reducing carbon footprint. And you have 20 minutes. Time is yours, Professor. And before your session, the committee would like to introduce to our audience virtually and offline a little or a glance about your CV. Administrator, can you share the CV from Professor Bimaraya Metri? Okay, I think I have to move a little forward because it's quite small from here. Professor Bima Raya Metri, PhD in IT, Mumbai University of India, working experience as a director of Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, and then chairman of Council of Logistic Infrastructure and Project Management, and chairman of IIM and Foundation for Entrepreneurship Development, INDEF, and then professional experience as a former director of IIM Trukchapali, and then Dean LNT Institute of Project Management, Vadodara IMI New Delhi, and then Professor LED Search Program at BITS Pilani, and his expertise is in renowned expert of project management, infrastructure, quality management, and supply chain management. And then his member for several prestigious national and international committees related higher education accreditation and management standard. You have 20 minutes, sir. Time is yours to deliver your section or presentation on collaboration between the corporation and education sector.
Thank you very much for the organizer. May I have the presentations which was given to you? Or we can share from here. Yes. Yeah. Very good morning. First of all, I thank the organizers of 8th International Accounting and Business Conference IABC 2024, particularly Pervans Institute, Jakarta, and UITM Johor, Malaysia, for organizing the conference on this very important topic, sustainability and corporate social responsibility in carbon footprint. And my particular topic is collaboration between corporate and education sectors in reducing carbon footprints. So to begin with, all of you know that Earth is experiencing the round of climate change characterized by global warming, and according to one report, a 75% of the natural resources have been utilized already. And the way we are utilizing the natural resources, same way we continue to do, probably very few decades, all natural resources will be depleted and future generation will be in very dark. So that is where a sustainability came into picture, particularly current green gas in the Earth's atmosphere have gone from 280 ppm in pre-industrial time to 410 ppm in 2019, far exceeding the threshold for atmosphere carbon dioxide concentration of 350 ppm. So this speaks a lot about urgent need. Carbon footprint describes the total greenhouse gas emission caused by the activity, production, population. It may be individual, it may be the corporate, or it may be any other initiative. So therefore, it is important to identify the measures of the impact of climate change, greenhouse gases, and carbon management. United Nations 2019 emissions gas report states that global annual carbon emissions need to be reduced by 7.6% to limit the average temperature rise to 1.5 degree. But as of today, if you look at the Paris Agreement, the current rate of emission, there is a high probability that temperature will break 1.5 degrees centigrade in next 5 years. So all of you know that United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 2030, we're supposed to achieve all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by all the nations in the world. But if you look at the current status, many are working very seriously. Some of them are not so serious, but still 2030, just in 6 years, achieving all 17 sustainable goals is difficult, or it will be beyond the scope of 2030. So in this context, a dramatic climate change prompts countries to take urgent actions, and in this situation juncture, the conference on sustainability and CSR with reference to carbon footprint is happening in Jakarta. I am very happy, and congratulations to the organizer, a timely conference to basically give a warning to the rest of the people and also to work on that. So addressing these challenges require innovative solutions, interdisciplinary approaches that integrate the knowledge from higher education institutions and experts from the corporate world. Therefore, this topic given to me, collaboration between corporate world and higher education sectors, will gain a prominence as a powerful mechanism to bridge the gap between research and practical implementation, leading to reduction in carbon footprint. In this plenary, I try to explore significance of collaboration between the corporate and higher education institutions in reducing carbon footprint and promoting sustainability, and also highlight strategies for fostering effective collaborations. So to begin with, first section talks about importance of collaboration. Why do you have collaboration between the corporate and the academic institutions or higher education institutions? Now, the question why or what is the necessity of collaboration? The point number one talks about bridge the gap between theory and practice. All of you know that theory precedes the practice. Without theory, practice has no meaning, and practice and theory without practice has no meaning. So therefore, very important coming together two great stakeholders, the corporate and the academia, to bridge the gap between theory and practice. If you look at the value of the research and practical theoretical framework, the academicians are having academic institutions, but industry possesses practical expertise and resources. A collaboration between these two bridge the gap and also provide an innovative solution which we never did, but we may experiment and we may do it, and that helps to enter into new venture. In return, academic institution will get basically industrial insights, and that can be taken back to the academics. So therefore, translating research into real world is actually important to bridge the gap. That is point number one, why it is essential to come together. Point number two talks about accelerating innovation technology transfer. Today is a disruptive world. It is a fluid world. We call it as a Barney world or fluid world, means everything is changing. One disruption, all of you have seen COVID as a disruption, as a pandemic. It has changed, it has touched every sector. Now, the disruptions, today chat GPT has come, cloud computing is coming, 3D printing, digital twin, all those new disruptions in technologies, basically bringing the innovation. And if you don't make use of technology, it is difficult to get into innovation, and technology and innovation are going to play a very, very important role for reducing the carbon footprint. And that point of view, it is extremely important how to make use of scientific expertise available and research capacity available in the academic institutions and resources of the industry together. One can accelerate the innovations and technology transfer to promote sustainable technologies, processes and practices, and which can implement to change the corporate landscape. For example, India, first time, 1998, Government of India came out with to bridge the gap between rural and urban, being a big nation. Then Prime Minister brought out the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Basically, a very smallest of the small village should be get connected with a bigger one, so that they will get all the facilities which are there in urban area, so that they use the innovative technology using the local material and geosynthesis. They get into a new kind of road, and that innovation help to connect the rural people to the mainstream. So this is how one can get into the accelerating innovation technology transfer. The most important part, India, 1st April 2014, they came out with the CSR amendment, and in the CSR, corporate social responsibility, is compulsory for every organization whose profit is more than, whose average 3-year profit is more than 5 crores or 50 million rupees. All such organization, 2% of the profit has to go to CSR. Now, huge CSR money in Indian organizations, large, big organization, even some of the MSMEs, medium, small and micro enterprises, lot of CSR money is there. using those CSR money, how to get into innovation technology transfer. It is a big way Government of India is adopting CSR initiatives for building the startups and also unicorns, and also basically many of them are focusing sustainability, keeping sustainability in mind and ESG in mind. And the private players are investing in the companies, those who have a higher ESG score. So this is how that CSR money is used big way, and last 10 years, very fruitful results India has got out of the CSR, and as a part of that, India is number 3 at global level for startup, and many startup are in the area of agri-tech and as well as in MSME areas, small and medium enterprise areas, they came out, and that could possibly because of the CSR and accelerated innovation technology transfer. Third important collaboration, why collaboration is requiring, enhancing interdisciplinary approach. Interdisciplinary approach is extremely important. As on today, if you see the developed nation, we categorize the entire world into 3 categories: developed nation, developing nation, and third world countries. So if you look at the 5 developed nations, you have created a 80% of the solid waste, and that is how ozone crack and climate change, lot of problems. Few nations are responsible for this all. Why today we are talking about sustainability and carbon footprint? Because developed nation basically without caring the mother earth and planet, exploitation of resources and creating a solid waste, and that is how today we ended up with a climate change, global warming, and ozone crack. So therefore, it is extremely important to get into interdisciplinary approach. A specialization, basically, too much specialization create a problem. For example, if I give the example of the medical paternity, if you go to the dentist, they will, if there is a pain, they will take out the teeth, but they will lead to the problem of eyesight. And then you go to the eye specialist after some time, they will do something, then it may end up with the problem with ear or brain because they don't see the impact. So therefore, from too much specialization to interdisciplinary approach is extremely important. And as a part of that, it is extremely important one has to look into how to get into interdisciplinary approach. And Government of India 2020, as a part of this, they came out with National Education Policy 2020. National Education Policy 2020 talks about interdisciplinary approach and embedded on or founded on Indian knowledge system. Our traditions actively play important role for sustainability point of view. If you go by the traditions, people, those who are living in the small rural area and also the forest, those people are the one, they respect the planet, respect the sustainability, respect the the mother earth. And the sustainability problem has came because the fast urbanization and also not respecting the nature. Therefore, interdisciplinary approach, which is founded on Indian knowledge system, Government of India has come out as a part of that. Now, lot of initiative last 4-5 years it has happened, and there is a strong collaboration between the corporate world, industry, and academia to look into the holistic approach, 360-degree approach, so that impact should not, a specialization impact should not harm on the overall aspect. So therefore, it is whether it's the engineering, management, social science, environmental studies, everywhere a sustainability and carbon footprint can be tackled and reduced, and sustainability can be enhanced if you focus on interdisciplinary approach. The last and the fourth most important, the imperative for collaboration is promoting culture and organizational change. Now, culture, if you see any nation, indigenous knowledge system, in India we call Indian knowledge system, but every country, Indonesia, it has its own tradition, that is indigenous knowledge system. If we promote the culture, if we promote tradition, if we promote, they are all in favor of sustainability, they are all in favor of, how to take care of our planet for many, many generations. Till today, the myth is we thought this has been given by our forefathers, but now we have to rethink the entire planet is given to us by our great grandchildren, and how to keep them, the capacity of the planet for them. So if you keep that angle, futuristic angle, probably the use of resources from start to end and every level, if you take care of sustainability aspect, probably this kind of culture already exists in India, Indonesia, Malaysia, many Asian countries we have. Of course, everywhere it is there, even China, all those nations, the traditions if we follow, probably the way we are conducting organization or the corporate, that corporate as usual business, they move on to sustainable business model if you consider culture and tradition. And therefore, this collaboration is extremely important and essential to move on to the collaborations. And it is a win-win for both corporate as well as academic institution, because the education sector understand what is the trend, how it is moving in the corporate world, and students can learn from the harshest mouth, and from academic research and expertise will go to industry and to protect the planet. So therefore, these are the four important imperatives for collaboration. Now, what are the strategies for fostering effective collaboration? How to make collaboration very effective and workable, that is extremely important. And for that, point number one, first strategy is establishing clear objectives and common goals. As you all know that normally academia and industry, or education institutions and industry, always there is a gap. Industry people think academicians are theorists, and academicians think those people don't understand the theory. So how to bridge this gap? Therefore, a clear objective, common goal, and throwing out the egos, and with the common goal of the carbon footprint and enhancing sustainability. If you come out with the crystal clear goals, and institution can have a memorandum of understanding to work on those common goals, I am sure that strategy basically works. And for example, at our institute, Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, we have strong collaboration with the many corporates, public sector as public sector undertaking, as well as private sector. We conduct a large number of MOU and work towards sustainability. Recently, our biggest conglomerate of India, a Coal India Limited, we have done the sustainable leadership capacity building program, and to how to promote and create awareness sustainability in the biggest conglomerate. Second, developing the second important strategy is facilitating interdisciplinary research project and initiative. Now, interdisciplinary research project, for example, in India, Government of India, as a part of National Education Policy, they come out with National Research Foundation. Huge amount of money is kept in the foundation, and the institution, those who are going to work interdisciplinary fund among the institutions and the corporate together, they can come out with the proposal for research projects and initiative, and Government of India is promoting, so that a sustainability can be a main focus area, core area for the research, and all the aspect, multidisciplinary aspect is taken. So that we call it as a Anusandhan or National Research Foundation is a focal point, a nodal agency to support this kind of project. And as I told you, interdisciplinary research projects and initiative, a lot of CSR money, corporate social responsibility, every companies are whatever the 2% is a profit of the 3-year average, that money, a lot of money comes to the academic institutions, and it will help the corporate world to promote sustainability and ESG scoring and initiative. So this is the second strategy one can adopt depending upon the institution, their area of research. Third one, encouraging interdisciplinary education and capacity building. So that already I mentioned, Government of India came out with National Education Policy 2020. Capacity building means basically a capacity building for all the level, right from the board level, creating awareness, senior executives, and people at the mid-level in the corporate world, capacity building program, training program, so that everybody will be on the same page when it comes to sustainability and carbon footprint. As you know that even though today we are digitalization, big way we are going for digital transformation is one of the way, larger extent it will take care of reducing the carbon footprint. And also innovation, instead of, every iPhone used to come out with a separate plug and pin. Now it is the same old plug and pin can work, and even if you purchase the new model of iPhone. So this is the way electronic waste as well as a traditional way of doing the business with lot of manpower, and that if you digitalize, automate, and that will help, and as a part of that, capacity building is important. And the capacity building also always bring everybody on the same page and to remain relevant to the present world, whereas present world is continuously changing due to disruptions. So therefore, skilling, reskilling, upskilling, and updating the people, what are the 17 sustainable development goal and which are the core for my organization, so that education institution can play a very, very important pivotal role for the corporate world. Next important is create a supportive policy and regulatory environment. Supportive policy and regulatory environment, everything in the country, a regulatory environment and policy is extremely important. That shapes, that provides the guidance, that provides the norms for the education institutions as well as the corporate world. So according to the changing world, a regulatory environment also has to be agile instead of rigid. Many times people say this cannot be done because of the regulatory norm, which is not good for the sustainability and reducing carbon footprint. Such regulatory can be updated, changed as and when needed. So therefore, policy and regulatory are extremely important, and that should be basically taken care. So how to modify as per the requirement, policy maker and regulator. Advocacy should be done by the education institutions because they are the user of the policy and regulatory. They can together can make a request, and they can discuss and debate with the policy maker and the government how it can be updated, it can be get changed or revised as per the requirement. That is a streamlining the regulatory process is another important aspect strategy every organization can adopt. So before joining academics, I was in one of the company, India's one of the finest company, Larsen and Toubro. I was working, and that company is known for doing advocacy, keeping the current, the corporate environment. They always go to the government and they will convince that why it is to be changed. I think that kind of mechanism, academic institutions as well as industry should go and get it modified. Yeah, yeah, I'm coming to the end. Creating a mechanism of knowledge of exchange. So creating a mechanism of knowledge of exchange here, it is extremely important. Academia sitting with the reservoir of knowledge and industry is practicing and the existing knowledge. Academia is always looking for the knowledge ahead of time. So how to bring together that can be possible with the help of workshops, seminar, conferences. All those things plays a very, very important role, and how to these two organizations collaborate in those areas and update themselves with the latest knowledge, and that point of view it is extremely important to get into this exchange. And just I'll give one example for this point, for the paucity of time, creating mechanism for knowledge. Even if you conduct the organized conference, seminar, workshop, again, if you look at the carbon footprint, transportation carbon footprint accounts for majority of 95% of the in-person workshop carbon footprint, with food and accommodation service accounting for tiny portion of less than 5%. Now, this conference, this conference, IABC 24 happening in Jakarta, it is in hybrid mode, but it would have been in-person. If you look at the carbon footprint, 90%, 95% accounts for the transportation and 5% for food and accommodation. The most significant part of the online carbon footprint is the workshop execution phase, which consists mainly on air conditioning and cooling and food consumption. When you do the online, people sitting in respective countries and attending the conference or workshop, online, industry, academia. So in that case, the major cost 45% comes from the air conditioning and cooling, and food consumption is about 35%. Some researchers have made a study that while conducting industry academia kind of workshop knowledge exchange to reduce the carbon footprint of conference such as meeting location optimization. So if you put the meeting at the center point of the nation, for example, Nagpur is the center point of India, people coming from north, south, east, west, it is a equidistance, just 70 minutes away from all the metros. So if you make the equidistance, automatically fuel consumption, flight travel will be less. And promoting land transport if you go by the land transport, that too by the train, probably the automatically your cost will come down, and for that purpose increasing carbon tax on flights and hybrid meeting model can be considered as a part of carbon footprint. So it is also, some of the studies say that online meeting to be utterly carbon reducing meeting model, ignoring the energy consumption on single person during the video conference, the networking infrastructure, consumption of video conferencing and other green gas emissions. So many times if you sit alone and doing the video conferencing, I am sitting here alone, but I a lot of light and consumption, all the electricity, internet consumption is there. This will again add a carbon footprint. So optimization has to be achieved. So this is the way it is extremely important. One has to look into that, the energy consumption, the travel cost, the meeting expenses, how they will add the carbon footprint. Similarly, for all other strategies, other points also one can work out. So in conclusion, what I can say is the powerful collaboration between the corporate world and the higher education institutions hold a tremendous potential in addressing complex challenges of sustainability and carbon footprint. Collaboration can drive transformative change and significantly contribute in reducing carbon footprint by combining academic knowledge and research, industry expertise, and interdisciplinary approaches. So symbiosis of tradition and technology will make a magic in reducing carbon footprint. This is the punchline. I must say that our tradition and technology, if you bring together, I think nobody can stop to reducing the carbon footprint. Finally, collaboration and cooperation are the keys going forward to save ourselves, our planet, and many, many future generations. Thank you very much. If any questions, I can take it up.
Metri, for your insightful presentation about higher education and its contribution to the environment. Okay, now we have moved to the Q&A session, sir, for Professor Fan and for Professor Metri. Before we move to the Zoom question, I would like to deliver to the floor if you have any question for both of our third and fourth panelists. Everyone from the offline room, from the Perbanas Institute lobby. Okay, if there's no question from the offline audience, I would like to move to the Zoom question. You still here, Professor Fan? The first question is Professor Fan about the corporate social responsibility will impact on brand image of an institution. If this about the social issue that you are talking about, don't you think plenty of corporation or university does the advocation to calm down the nerve, to calm down the boycott, and to calm down the negative impact on this social issue? What do you think about that, sir?
Well, brand image is really important for it, and communicating what the values of the organization are to the consumers, if it's a corporation, or to the students, or to the community, if it's a university, is really essential. And I think that what we really need to understand are ways for the decision makers in the corporation to hear the voices of the consumers in a way that's productive. I think that many of the corporate stakeholders respond very negatively to boycotts. They obviously respond very negatively to labor strikes, just as many university administrators may respond negatively to student protests. So I think by institutionalizing channels of communication, we can create a more productive conversation, and it flows both ways. Both the decision makers need to hear what the public, what consumers, what employees are saying, but also the decision makers need to communicate in a clear and sincere manner to the public. It's always awkward to talk about brand image in regards to a university, but that is sort of the reality of universities in this time period. So I think that is a very important an analogy between the corporation and the large university.
If we see this in the long term, they still advocating this kind of issue, there will be appreciation for all the institution involved.
Yeah, no, I think that commitment and consistency is important, and that's why having institutionalized means to communicate to decision makers that if if they come out and they do something that's very performative or make an initial policy, but then backtrack from that, there needs to be mechanisms to let them know that people are watching. So we've seen this in the United States. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, there were major protests about social justice, police brutality, and racism in the United States that culminated in the Black Lives Matter movement that led to major policy moves by corporations in regards to social responsibility. In the past few years, in the past year, there's been a lot of slippage there, and some of those policy moves are are slowly disappearing from some of these corporations, and they need to be held to account to stay consistent, as you said, with what that message is. That it can't just be performative, that it needs to be a fundamental policy change. Again, be it a social justice issue in regards to human rights or environmental issues.
Thank you for your feedback, Professor Fan. We are moving to second question. This question is in Indonesia. I would like to translate it in English for Professor Metri. Professor Metri, if you saying about the contribution on emission that caused by higher education, I think university and higher education are the most responsible for the contribution on the emission because of the shifting or the conversion from offline to online media, whether it's using virtual collaboration tools or assignment using digital data and digital submission process, and how to compensate on that, because I think university, school has also big influence or responsible for this issue as well.
Yeah, I think if I understand the question correctly, basically how online and online submission and all, how it is going to help the carbon footprint, reducing carbon footprint. This is what the question is.
Shifting from emission from offline
Right.
to online interaction.
Yeah, I think all of you know that universities in future, for example, before COVID, we were all offline, and during COVID, offline, this main education became offline and online became mainline. So online became mainline during COVID, and whether students and faculty, we both learned how to conduct the classes, how to make learning remotely. And afterwards, today, due to digitalization, digital transformation, as if you are face-to-face interacting, more than that, exciting interaction also happens because of digital design. And nowadays, most of the universities, they are going to be a smart universities, high-touch and high-tech universities. So when the universities are going to be high tech and high touch, offline will be there, but only offline is not going to be the USP or competitive advantage, I must say. Online and offline hybrid model is going to be the way going forward. It will also contribute for sustainability and reducing carbon footprint. At the same time, you know that all over the world, many institutions also started online programs and offline programs. And higher education institution is the, as I said, very play crucial role for sustainability, because if you look at a quotation of a great leader of South Africa, he said, education can only change the world. Education can only change the world because education is the input to the corporate world. And if you say the students as a holistic human being to take care of all living beings, including people, I think sustainability and carbon footprint challenges automatically come down, because education is the change agent. Education is basically a change maker. So education institution basically build the change masters who can lead the unknown roles in unborn companies in the corporate world, focusing on sustainability and reducing the carbon footprint.
Thank you for your feedback, Professor Metri.
Thank you.
Probably one more question from the floor before we make a closing statement. Anyone from the room? Okay, I think that's all, Professor Metri and Professor Fan, the session for you. And we are happy to have you here as part of panelists in international conference in Perbanas Institute, collaboration with University Teknologi Mara Malaysia. And before we make a closing statement, before we close the session, I would like to make a closing statement inspired by your talk and response. From Professor Fan, CSR is a goodwill that must be initiated and committed. Not only how to achieve permanent brand image, but you have to work for it. And then from Professor Metri, digital and virtual shifting is a must. Even though we thought that it has contribution on international or global emission, it still have positive sides. When the virtual and offline collaboration nowadays must be work or run together. I think that's all from us. Thank you, Professor Michael G. Fan, PhD from California State University, Sacramento, United States of America, and Professor Bima Raya Metri, Director of Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, India. Thank you for your availability and time. Hopefully we can see you in person, probably this year or next year. We welcome you from international students that want to collaborate with Perbanas Institute. We have international program that consists of student exchange, student internship, and also class exchange or summer camp that can be conducted in every semester. So hopefully this is a good offer for our international partnership to collaborate with Perbanas Institute. See you in person next time, and I will conclude. My name is Stefanor Amelia. Thank you for the opportunity. I return back the event to the MC, Mr. Adi Damawan and Miss Ervina. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Dr. Tifanor Amelia. Allow me to also express my gratitude and high appreciation to all the panelists of today's seminar. Let us once again give a big round of applause to our panelists and moderator.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now would like to present the certificate of appreciation to the panelists and moderator for the second session. So I would like to invite Professor Haria to come forward and hand it the certificate of appreciation virtually to Professor Bramaya.
Dear Professor Bimaraya, thank you very much for giving the speech on the panel session. Hopefully one day you can visit Perbanas in Jakarta or the other way around. So once again, on behalf of the Rector of Perbanas Institute, we would like to thank for your participation in this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
And then the certificate of appreciation to our moderator, Prof. Yaya, to Ibu Tifa. Please, Ibu Tifa, come forward. Ya, makasih Bapak.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the final session of the opening ceremony. Allow me to inform some additional information regarding with the international conference. The first one, seminar certificate will be distributed through email. And the second one, following this seminar event, we will proceed with the call for paper activity.
And before we conclude the event, on the behalf of the committee, we would like to express our appreciation and all the parties and partners who have contributed to the success of this event. Thank you very much for your presence and unwavering support. We look forward to seeing you again on another occasion.
Beautiful sunrise in lovely Monday.
Thank you all and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.